RotoGrinders, Dean here. Dean 78904. If you want to go technical, happy Monday. This is a start of 2 hours, 2+ hours of nonstop Mlb Dfs conversation, taking y'all straight up to lock. 7:05 on the East Coast. We yield to crunch time at 6:15. Joining me today, one of the greatest DFS players in all of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. We got TJ Zwarich. TJ, you went to allegedly, picture it didn't happen. We didn't see it. You went to a wedding this weekend? I didn't ask you about a pre-show, but I remember, I think you mentioned that in the old Discord channel. And anything worth of note? Standard run-of-the-mill wedding? Did we bust out the Spidey tux? Anything worth mentioning?
No, nothing. Pretty standard. It was really nice. Got to see some friends that I hadn't seen in a really long time, since probably before the pandemic even started. So that was really nice. But other than that, no, pretty standard. Didn't stay too late, and so ended up being able to hop on as a last minute crunch time sub in when they were a man down on Sunday morning.
Wait, were you hungover Sunday morning, or how thirsty were you Saturday night? Or was it like an afternoon wedding?
No, not at all. So I was watching the show and playing DFS and noticed there was only 2 of them, so hopped on.
Oh, look at you. And was this wedding also catered by Fuddruckers? I know your wedding was catered by Fuddruckers, that's amongst fun facts about TJ. That might be the most fun facts. The most fun of facts about TJ. Is Fuddruckers huge in Canada? I have no idea if that was an isolated incident.
It's in my city. The Fuddruckers has just consistently done very well. There's a Ruckers arcade right beside it. There's like a really nice mini golf course, batting cages, rock climbing wall, kind of all right beside the Fuddruckers restaurant. And it's all owned by the same people. So it does really well here, and the food is very, very good. But it's not really like an all throughout Canada, they're everywhere thing.
I just want to make sure. Did you say Ruckers? Are you too busy to say Fuddruckers?
No, the arcade, the Fuddruckers is the restaurant. The arcade is Ruckers.
Huh? Are they in conjunction? Is it a joint business? Do we know the same?
Oh yeah, everything, and like the mini golf there, the batting cages, it's all owned by the same people.
Wow. To my understanding, the Fuddruckers that I'm aware of, the few that I've seen in my life, there's never been like an arcade or a batting cage attached to it. That's interesting. Stevie, we haven't seen you in a while. Did you go on a Fuddruckers World Tour or something? Where have you been for the last couple of weeks?
Vacation. Something we use lightly, right? Something we don't do a lot. Someone on the morning grind today told me they didn't recognize me without bags under my eyes. So, yeah. Well, it took a couple weeks off. I guess. I mean, technically it was a couple weeks, but I still worked on the weekend for NASCAR. So, couple like during the weeks off, I guess.
Anything you want to share with the people? It's good to recharge little batteries. Family vacation, I assume.
Yeah, we did the mountains, and then when we got back in Florida, we did the beach for a few nights. Got lucky when we were staying on the beach because we had a full moon. We had an ocean view, and there was a rocket launch one night. So it was really like a cool kind of thrown together like beach trip on our way back from the mountains, and it was nice. It was nice.
I remember coming back. I went to school in Orlando. We were coming back from a night out somewhere in Disney grounds or whatever, like 3:00 in the morning. And there was these things called toll booths back in the day, where you give the guy $1 or a quarter, and they give you change. And he's like, "You guys going to the launch?" Like, well, we weren't planning on it, but tell us about it. And we went to like a launch at like 3:30 in the morning. It's spectacular. One of the random things you can see out of nowhere. One of the perks, I suppose, there of living in Florida. Those night launches are pretty interesting. All right. Stevie, we have an 8-gamer today. Plenty of time to talk about it. Mostly pitching filled, I would say. The pitching is probably better than the hitting. The Braves are out there too. But as shout out to Dave Potts. Jesus, good. I read the musings today. He shouted me out. So I kind of blushed when I was reading the musings. He made me a little reference. He kind of acknowledged that we live in the world of a salary cap. Some expensive pitching, of course. Spencer Strider, greatest strikeout pitcher in the world, against a bad Pirates team at a good ballpark. He's very expensive, almost $13K on DK. The Braves, of course, are expensive as well. It's hard to get them both. Basically impossible if you want the 5 top Braves, obviously. But, Stevie, I want your assessment. What are we looking at as far as the screenshot on this slate? Because I think it's more pitching infested than anything else. There are some stacks that are worth talking about. We'll dig into it. But what is your plan of attack? I assume you're doing the 3 entries. That's your standard?
Yeah, 300 max, typical. Didn't dabble a lot in Fanduel. I like the two pitcher sites today, and one of that reasons is just, I mean, there's a couple cheap pitchers that I think are very interesting, and kind of watching the weather. Obviously, Kevin Roth will be on after us, but Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and the Mets game, the weather matters. I think more in the Atlanta game than anything else, and you kind of nailed it when you say we live in a salary cap world. It's Strider, obviously top end pitcher. Atlanta, one of the top end stacks, but I mean, it's not like you can build an Atlanta stack and Strider together. So yeah, I think Strider is in a fantastic spot. I think Cole's in a fantastic spot. I think Peralta's in a fantastic spot. So I think it's just one of those days where you're kind of building out what makes sense, and Peralta is getting a lot of projected ownership here.
By the way, Sean in chat, Stevie says, let Stevie host. He just gets down to business. I think he's saying you get down to business. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean,
do you want to host, Stevie?
No,
you want to down to business.
I host a show 5 days a week. I don't need to host this one. I like coming on here and listening to Dean ramble. It's my favorite thing to do during the week.
Did you catch any morning grinds while you were away, Stevie?
No.
Did I do admirably in your place?
Thank you for filling in. I did not catch any of them. I did not go on social. I did not go on anything. I enjoyed my 2 weeks off. I really realistically just shut it. I don't even know. I had to catch up last night on a ton of the trades that happened in the trade deadline because I just disconnected from everything.
I have to fill you in on because it was a pretty hilarious story that it all went really well the whole 2 weeks, and then there was the one day where I messaged Keith and I'm like, you good for the morning grind tonight? He's like, yep, absolutely. And then half hour later I somehow just forget, and so we end up hopping on at about 10:45 Eastern. We're recording for 25 minutes. We're chatting through the slate, big 14 game slate. I'm talking with the chat on YouTube. Realize because the chat's like, so are you guys running late or what? We've been talking for 25 minutes, forgot to hit the live button. So that day was it was a literal grind. It was morning by the time we ended, but it was a Coors slate that got delayed and started at 11 p.m. Eastern. So everybody was up anyways. It was all good.
Nice.
So you have not been well equipped, Stevie. That's what I'm hearing. You're still hosting the morning grind going forward.
Yeah, I had a couple people reach out to me, and by a couple, I had 35 plus messages while I was gone. So I appreciate all the support. I've been doing the morning grind for over 7 years, and that's the longest I've taken off outside of when we were doing COVID and Dean was hosting a lot of the morning grinds.
Those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun. I remember coming on the morning grind as a guest during COVID. When Dean,
the people wanted to know about you. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I needed a break. This job and this industry can get mentally exhausting, and you have to know when to take a break. And something I've learned over the years is take a break when you need to take a break. And I took a break.
Yeah, you're talking me into maybe I should take a break at some point. I've not done it in a while. I was going to take Sunday off, just a day off. From DFS, but go ahead.
I always support you guys taking as many breaks as possible because I typically get to be the one who subs in and gets to rack up as many shows as possible. And so take all the breaks.
So you don't care about my mental health or Stevie's mental health. You just care about TJ's pocketbook. I don't know why you have a pocketbook. Wallet, I probably just said.
Well, here's the thing. It's important to you can't fill anybody else's cup when yours is empty. You got to make sure your cup is filled, and then you can start worrying about, who else around me, who else's cups are empty. And so by me making lots of money, my mental health gets better, and I'm able to go, hey, how's Dean doing? How's Stevie doing? I better check in on these guys. And
doesn't cost you anything to check in. Doesn't cost you anything to check in, Feel free. My DMs are always open.
Not necessarily true. That it costs from my own mental health to check in sometimes.
Fair enough. All right, TJ, what is your assessment as far as this slate? Again, Strider, obviously the Uber stud. There are some other good pitchers also throwing baseball. Senga's here. Garrett Cole is spectacular. The K rate's not what it once was, but still really, really good. Freddie Peralta, an awesome matchup against the horrific Rockies. That hasn't changed, by the way, Stevie. Remember how bad the Rockies were when you took a break? They got worse, actually.
I saw that.
They're still terrible. Now they're actually worse. So what do you have, TJ, as far as this? Like Logan Webb, I should mention him too. He's a very good pitcher. Again, it's more pitcher top heavy, I guess is a way to say it, as opposed to hitters. Is that your assessment as well, TJ? And what's the plan? 150? Running a bunch of lineups today, or what?
Yeah, that's the plan, and a very similar assessment for me is I find it very pitcher heavy. There's a few offenses I'm really looking to focus in on, but it's a big enough slate that when I'm playing 150 lineups, I feel like I'm getting. This is one of the first times in a while that I haven't had any issues of like, shoot, there's players in my pool that aren't making their way into lineups. Like everybody's getting their way in there because the pool is small enough. So I do like this slate quite a bit. I feel like there's a few nice edges, a few pitchers going overlooked today that I like getting to in tournaments. And the same for offenses. So I'm excited about this one. We'll drop Spidey bombs every 50 likes. We're 18 away from the first one. So keep hitting that like button. I got Spidey bombs ready. A couple of big names in the Spidey bombs today. They got some real good odds in terms of home run bets. So I'm ready to break this one down.
Do we know how many pitchers are in the pool officially? Let me set the line. I like setting the line here, TJ. There's 12.
You're usually a lot better at setting the line than you are at picking what players are in the pool.
Hey, how dare you? That's not true.
I'm just saying you're really good at setting the line.
Okay, hold on. I'm setting it right now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, I think it's like 9.5 is the line. I think it's right where we're at.
Like I said, you're great at it. The line,
it's either 9 or 10.
It's either 9 or 10. Stevie, you got the over or under?
Under.
It's 9.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
There you go.
I said 7 in chat. I thought 7 was the right number.
So we have 9 pitchers. Now, are you taking a big stand on Strider? I don't think we have to sell people on how good Strider is. It's just a matter of like how you make them work. 41% ownership on DK currently. Not the highest. Freddie Peralta is number 1. He's like $3K cheaper, and he's got that matchup against the horrific Rockies. On FanDuel, Strider's price a little bit better. Just I guess if you're comparative shopping, I suppose. But Peralta is coming in. Let me see. Actually, I ran some optimals, and they're basically the same. Let me see what we have as far as our projection. 31% Peralta on FanDuel as opposed to 22% Strider. Interesting. I wonder if that changes a little bit because it's not that much difference between those two. But yeah, what's our official stance on Strider, TJ? The people know by now the greatest strikeout pitcher alive currently, one of the best seasons of all time as far as striking people out, close to 40% Ks, technically 39.3%, just spectacular, which is 10 percentage points higher than the next person. That would be Senga, Peralta, and Cole essentially. But our official stance on Strider is what?
Now, this may be a boring take. Maybe it'd be a little hotter if we were on crunch time with Carty, who might just based on the bat projections say Strider's a bad play today. And we could get into it like the last time we were on together for a Strider slate. But I have about as boring of a take with Strider as possible. He's going to be 41% owned. I have 41% Spencer Strider.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, yeah, I think that's fine personally. Because there's good enough pivots where I don't feel obligated to actually, jam him in every single lineup. Stevie, yourself, you're making 3 lineups. Is he in 1 of 2, 2 of 2? He's probably not in 3 of 3, but you tell me.
He's on 1 of 3. I built a Red Sox stack that I liked that had Strider. So Sox are somewhat cheap today. And I think that is a chalky build. So I have a really low-owned secondary stack with that one. So I just liked how it kind of turned out, and I had the money for Strider. So I think it's more of if you have the money for Strider, you play him if you feel good. I think there's a really good build with like Peralta Bayo. Like if you're doing that type of build, I think Dunning's getting some ownership. I don't necessarily love him for like cash games or single entry stuff, but like Peralta Bayo is kind of where I'm at on like my main team that I built.
Peralta getting 52%, Stevie. 9.6K against Colorado. You can pull up the plate IQ, just like myself and TJ. We've looked at it as well. I'm sure how terrible this Colorado lineup happens to be. It's not good. We're looking at a K percentage collectively at 27.3%. That is a huge number. Peralta on the season, K-wise, at 28.3%. 32% the righties, 24% the lefties. We want to see more righties than lefties, and we're seeing just 2 lefties. So it feels like a really, really strong spot. Seven righties. He's got 32% strikeouts against righties this season. He's a tough fade, but Peralta's been a little bit up and down at times, but it feels really, really good, especially with the discounts. Where are you at, Stevie, as far as Peralta?
Yeah, I have Peralta in 2 of 3. I almost had him in 3 of 3, but ended up 2 of 3. Like he's just in one of those spots where I feel like you just kind of eat the chalk. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think there's leverage in other places today, so I'm more likely to take the leverage in other places than just being underweight or fading Peralta. I don't hate the idea of being underweight on a 50% owned guy, but like pitching, I think, is a lot different than like if this was a 50% owned hitter. I could completely see like even a 30% owned hitter, like I could see being underweight on that like type of scenario. But the fact that he's in such a great spot, like you talked about, the Rockies are awful. This lineup was bad and it got worse after the trade deadline. So just kind of accepted. He's been pitching really good too. Like his strikeout rate over the last month has climbed back up over 30%. Milwaukee's making a push right now. So, yeah, I think Peralta's in a fantastic spot. And just one of those spots, I think you eat the chalk. You take the 28% Ks against one of the worst lineups in baseball.
DJ, Peralta?
Yeah, he's my highest owned pitcher today. Strider's number 2. I got some stands on a few cheaper guys I'm taking. I'm mixing a few players in that are in theory bad plays, and they're going to be super low owned. And then there's one pitcher in particular who I'm going to be very heavily overweight on today, but I'm not taking any strong stands on those 2. I have 45% Peralta and like 40% Strider.
Do you want to fire up that one pitcher? You want to fire up your hot take as far as the one you're going to be well over the field on? You want to keep that one harnessed until?
So for what it's worth, this was the guy I planned on going overweight on from the beginning of the day, but I'll leave it for Stevie because I was bored this afternoon, and so I tuned into the morning grind in preparation for our show, and he had the same thought.
I'm going to try to guess who it is. Is it like Cole Reagans?
No.
Hyunjin Ryu? No, it can't be Ryu. It's not Bido.
Reagans is one of the guys I'm mixing in at super low ownership, though. I have 8% Reagans today.
Dunning is actually going to be heavily. Is it Patrick Sandoval?
It is.
Okay. Somebody talk to me about Patrick Sandoval. He's not on my radar right now. Somebody talk me into him.
I mean, it's more of like it's just leverage off of Dunning. We have Dunning projected at like 20% ownership. I think that's actually pretty close. He might come in a little bit higher, a little bit lower than that, but I mean, he's facing Oakland. So I get why there's ownership on Dunning, but I mean, the Giants continue to be one of the worst teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. They're 28th in WRC plus. They strike out at the 6th most highest rate. They don't walk, which is one of Sandoval's big issues. So I mean, it's not the greatest matchup in the world, but I mean, his strikeout rate is higher against righties. They're going to throw 7, 8, 9 righties against him because they platoon so much. And it's not like these righties are great hitters. I mean, you're worried about maybe Flores and Davis, maybe Bailey. I just think it's a great spot overall. You're just kind of hoping he goes out and he gets the strikeouts and he has a good game, but really like this spot for Sandoval today.
TJ, what do you want to add there as far as Sandoval? Not much else. It's just the fact that he's projecting for 6% ownership and Dunning is 20. I kind of view these guys very similarly today with maybe a very slight edge to Sandoval. And Sandoval is $200 cheaper. He's projecting for a quarter of the ownership. So to me, that just says play 30% Sandoval and 10% Dunning as opposed to 20% of each, kind of like I was originally planning.
It's about 2.5 points in projection, so it's not like a huge difference in projection, like you guys are saying. Dunning currently getting a little less than 16% as far as a median projection. According to the RotoGrinders Plate IQ projections, Sandoval at about 13.5. And like you said, maybe 19-20% ownership for Dunning and Sandoval around 6. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's probably something like I'm not going to get to because I only make a few lineups, but it's a good separator, Stevie. Like if you're making kind of a chalky offensive build, and just like build the quote unquote like chalk around whatever your pairing would be, Dunning and Strider or Dunning and Peralta, and then just move Dunning out and slide in Sandoval. You just need Sandoval to outscore him. Obviously, you need your hitters to your thing anyway, but that if they don't do their thing, it doesn't matter who your pitcher is. Interesting. All right. Michael just said the Oakland lineup is worse than projected. Was it just dropped? Did I miss it? What do we have here as far as Oakland? Thomas leading off, Bleday, Geloff, Brown, Soderstrom, Diaz, Langeliers, Kemp, and Allen.
It's Thomas and Kemp over Ruiz and Rooker.
Yeah. Why am I trying to think who Thomas is? Who's
Cody
Thomas, lefty?
Yeah, young kid.
Okay, Cody Thomas. Okay.
For what it's worth, I think that's actually worse for Dunning because he's significantly better to righties than he is to lefties. 4% better strikeout rate. ISO's higher to lefties. Ground ball rate's way higher to righties than it is to lefties. And so the fact that they're going with, I guess, Geloff, Diaz, and Langeliers and Allen as the only righties. So there's 5 lefties in there now instead of 3. I actually think that's worse for Dunning.
We've seen Thomas strike out a ton so far in a small sample in the majors, 37%. The bat they had some projecting at 26%, so there's some Ks there, but he does have some power. He's a big boy.
Big power guy.
Yes, 6'4". Not really. Yeah, go ahead.
270 ISO in AAA this season, 940 OPS, 17 home runs, like big power numbers. So, I mean, the fact that you're getting him lead off, his like home run to like strikeout rate is very similar, like a Joey Gallo type. Gallo probably has a little bit more power, but I mean, you're getting a really cheap power hitter against Dunning who doesn't strike out lefties as much. Maybe this is a guy we look at playing.
Yeah, he's old. Maybe he's got a little Joey Meneses in him. Like Meneses didn't break through until about 30 years old. He's 28. Cody Thomas.
He was drafted by the Dodgers in 2016.
Did you just know that off the top of your head?
No, I looked it up. Come on, Dean.
Oh.
I do know a lot of prospects, but I knew he wasn't a prospect, so I had to look that one up.
Yeah, I thought it was a prospect too, so I was surprised that he was old for baseball. Will be 29 soon, but okay. And all right, that's just sort of worth.
The strikeout upside for Dunning is probably better. I know he strikes out righties more, but I mean this lineup, there's 8 guys in this lineup that strike out a bunch. So I mean maybe the strikeout upside is higher for Dunning, even though there's more lefties in the lineup, but. Yeah, maybe a little bit more downside because of the power that the lineup has, but I mean the strikeout upside is definitely higher.
Stevie, you were away. You unplugged for a couple of weeks. Did you happen to see Tim Anderson and J-Ram, Jose Ramirez?
I saw the video. I talked about this on the morning grind. I thought it was a old video of Manny Ramirez. I'm not going to lie.
You thought it was Manny Ramirez?
I did. I really did. I thought it was Manny Ramirez. I watching the fight, like without knowing like what was going on and just like scrolling.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Manny Ramirez is fighting somebody. This must be an old video. And then I like looked into it more. I was like, I didn't ever realize that Jose Ramirez and Manny Ramirez look so alike. But yeah, I mean, J-Ram, dude, guys, beast. Why are you fighting people, man? You're a beast.
There was something before that incident, right? There had to be something.
Had to have been something. It just doesn't randomly happen like that.
Yeah, I saw somebody speculating like the night before there was something that happened that like I don't know how something had to spill over, and Tim Anderson was tweeting through it as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think he's deleted both of his tweets, but just a rough season all around. Well, a very forgettable season for Tim Anderson.
I think it's a forgettable season for both teams, like both guys. Like the Cleveland, they've been awful, and the White Sox, they have so much talent, and they've been awful. So,
isn't Cleveland going to win their division by default just because somebody has?
They're still terrible, Dean. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's just the way it's silly that they get to go to the playoffs because everybody else around them is bad too. Although Chop will probably tell you it's a better division than the AL East. That's a whole other conversation. But all right, TJ, your assessment as far as that little kerfuffle? Did you get you have any takeaway?
My takeaway is that it's funny that Anderson got suspended for twice as much time as Ramirez, and he also got knocked on his ass. That to me is the funniest part about it. But no, that's
what is the suspension? I didn't see it. I guess he's appealing.
They're both appealing, so they're both playing tonight. But Ramirez was 3 games, and Anderson's was 6 games. We have also gotten over 50 likes, and we're already quarter of the way there to Spidey Bomb number 2. So keep hitting that like button, and let's get us up to 100 for the next one. But I mentioned we got some big names going today in a very limited sample so far. Cole Reagans has gotten absolutely crushed by left-handed bats. Rafael Devers has no problem in a lefty-lefty matchup, and you can find him for plus 430 to hit a home run on Fanduel, and Rafael Devers is Spidey Bomb number 1.
Yeah, Reagans is, like you said, basically a neutral split. And my bad, I'm being corrected in the chat. Apparently, Cleveland has fallen back in the standings. Yeah, okay, so Minnesota is the team that really doesn't deserve it, but they're up in the division, the Central, by 4.5 games on Cleveland. They're 59-54, and Cleveland's 54-58. I follow the standings, but they're not as relevant to like what I do. I kind of know where everybody is, but sometimes I'll goof. My bad. But yeah, Minnesota's also run off 4 straight W's, and Cleveland's lost a couple in a row. We got San Fran's lineup. No surprise. Austin Slater is leading off against the lefty. Always a pinch at risk. Just understand that. When Sandoval comes out of the game, Slater, Estrada, AJ Pollock, another guy that is very much of a threat to get a pitch hit for. Wilmer Flores, JD Davis, Bailey, Conforto, Matos, and Matthias. So that means Peterson's on the bench and Wade, right? So those guys are coming in. I don't know if you're playing San Fran, but just be aware of the situation. Lamont Wade, Peterson on the bench, couple lefties there, and I'm probably missing somebody else too. Maybe a righty guy. I'm not really certain. They did put Conforto in there, so he'll probably stick around the entire game. But there you go. There's your San Fran lineup. And you guys are liking Sandoval. Do we like that to pick on there for Sandoval? This Giants lineup just came out. It's kind of what we expected, more or less.
Yeah, looks totally fine to me. I have no San Fran today for what it's worth.
All right.
Outside of Wilmer Flores, he is in my pool.
As far as likes, by the way, you said what next time we get to 100, you got the old Spidey Bomb?
Spidey Bomb number 2 is at 100.
All right. Yeah, hit that like button and kindly consider subscribing and turning those notifications so you know when we go live. How about Dylan Cease? Anybody interested in Dylan Cease? I'm going to give the Dylan Cease pitch. I imagine amongst your 9 pitchers, TJ, you're going to get a little bit of a discount on Dylan Cease, 8.5K against this Yankee team. It's, not spectacular. Any Cease for you?
Yeah, I have 13% Dylan Cease right now. So right there kind of with the field on this one. I initially had him out of the pool, but I'm gonna include him in just in case, because I do feel like he has the ability to put up 30 DK points, and just because that ability is there, I think I'm willing to take a shot. But honestly, if I'm being like full disclosure, fully pulling back the curtain, I had him out of the pool. I saw Squirrel had him tagged, and I put him back in the pool.
Squirrel's a pretty sharp guy, I believe. I'm fairly certain that he's going to be on next with Carty. Is that correct? Is that the tandem for crunch time? Yeah. You got SquirrelPatrol, and you have Carty, CEO of the Bat and the Blitz. You have Roth as well. Speaking of Roth, I see several people in chat talking about it, asking about it as far as the weather. The diciest game that we're looking at is the game in Philadelphia, which is not on the main slate. That's currently orange. Let's see. In Pittsburgh, we're at yellow. For the Mets, it's yellow-orange. Roth says, this is me reading on behalf of Roth, I think an in-game delay and eventual finish is the most likely outcome. Okay. Yeah, the spelling there. Tucum? Just a little. Well, I piece it together. But, yeah, Chicago and the Mets, that's also worth noting if you're considering somebody like Senga. I saw somebody talk about Smiley. I don't think I'm getting the Smiley. I know I'm not getting the Smiley. I know the Mets are gutless, but he's not spectacular either. But I want to know when that in-game delay will be, and I guess Roth doesn't know that until, well, the closer we get the lock, the better he can project that. But we do want to note that when he comes on. Let's see, Toronto, Cleveland, green, winds left to right at 50 miles per hour, and we're looking at yellow in Boston. So I guess Chicago and the Mets is the most likely one to give us an issue, but weather is fluid. Roth will let you know what's going on in 45 minutes, and he'll continue to update it as we move up to lock. Steven, did you have a take as far as Cease?
Sorry, I was yawning. Good timing there, Dean. I think the lineup for the Yankees is a good lineup for Cease. Only 3 left-handed hitters in the lineup. A lot of strikeout upside in this lineup. So when he's on, he's fantastic. When he's off, he's awful. So I think that overall, if you're playing Cease, it's probably large field tournaments. You're definitely able to stack the Yankees against him as well. I mean, this is one of those full-on baseball situations where I think it could go either way. So I would play both sides. I'd play some Cease and I'd play Yankees if I was playing like a 20-inch max type of build.
If you're into making those narrative lineups, though, you can get that stack of like stacking a Dylan Cease with Spencer Strider. Like, come on, this double stash, and you can get some Davis Schneider, which I'm sure TJ Davis Schneider. Have you seen his stash these days?
Oh, I have. I like me some Davis Schneider. He's probably going to be my highest owned bat today.
He's leading off today for your Blue Jays. 2 last names, 1 spectacular mustache. Yeah, he's made a big splash. Obviously, it's a small sample stuff, and I was looking at his minor league stuff and wasn't really expected to be this good. But he's come out. He's cheap and he's leading off, and we're looking for some salary savers. So I guess he's worth a look. Do you have what's your scouting report on Davis Snyder?
He's shown a lot of power recently in the minors, and so he's one of those guys that he was just playing so well they couldn't not call him up this year. And so I'm hoping this is. I mean, obviously he's not gonna keep getting a home run every game and 2 other hits alongside it, but he's a good player, and as long as he's a good young player, as long as he's going to be near top of that batting order, I'm going to keep taking advantage. I don't think he's going to be like an all-star level for the rest of the year by any means, but if he can provide a little bit of power to that Blue Jays lineup that's been lacking power this year, which feels so weird to say because for the last 4 years, it's been contact they struggle with. They get tons and tons of home runs. It's contact they struggle with, and it's really been the opposite this year. And so a guy with a little bit of pop in there, it feels good. And getting him up at the early on in the lineup, that's good for my DFS team.
Let me throw some names your way, TJ, and you tell me if you're with the field, you're over, you're under, and we'll kind of sort of elaborate from there. We haven't talked about Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole, really, really good, facing a White Sox team that's underwhelming. Currently, we're looking at 16% ownership. I should give a refresh. That may have changed because this is as of about an hour ago.
My pitching pool is also down to 8.
Oh, was somebody cut because of a conversation we had on here? Why did we cut somebody out?
The last player on my list was Drew Smiley, and just the combination of him having an extreme hitter's ump and that weather, it's just not enough to make me want to try, even though the Mets aren't what the Mets even though they're not a daunting offense right now. Sorry, Steve, don't kick me out. I still don't really think I want to go there when there's just so many other options I want to get more of. He's with that weather, with that umpire, that's enough kind of exterior factors to make me go, okay, I'm going to cut him so I can get a few more of these other guys I like.
Stevie, was Smiley ever in your pool? He wasn't in mine.
He was someone that I was definitely considering, when we were doing the morning grind last night. He didn't end up making the cut for me today. I mean, obviously, like you guys have talked about, the weather kind of stinks. Even if the weather was great, I don't know if I would have played Smiley today. Ended up on a lot more just kind of mid-range. I wouldn't even say mid-range. I'd say in the Peralta, Bayo, Cease range is just, I think, is so good that I don't think you need Smiley today. So I'm using Sandoval as my pivot off of Dunning, so I didn't really need Smiley today.
Senga in that same game, by the way, and speaking of umpires, they're talking about it in chat. You guys mentioned it. There are 2 extremes. Not that Spencer Strider needs it, but he also has an extreme pitcher's umpire. So great ballpark, great fastball, great breaker, best K rate in the league. And he's got the umpire that might give him the corners and beyond as well. So again, he's super, super pricey, and you got to, make it work. But again, I think people know how good Strider is. One extreme hitter's umpire, it was referenced there, was Smiley and Senga. Senga walks too many guys. He's somebody that kind of needs the corners and beyond. His walk rate in the season, 11.6%. TJ, is he in the pool for you? You're making a bunch of lineups. Theoretically, he can strike out 8 or 9, but he also can walk 5 or 6. Ownership right now on Senga is currently 12%. Are you over or under that for Senga?
0% Senga for me today. He's not one of the guys that cracks the pool. Just based on the walk rate, the weather, the umpire, too many things going against him. I just kind of crossed him right out.
Stevie?
Yeah, I would rank pretty much everybody to seize over Senga today. So I think that Strider, Cole, Webb, Peralta, Bayo sees all better plays than Senga today, especially like if we're going to get an in-game delay. I mean, if it happens in the fourth inning, your guy's not coming back. So I think that even on the 8-game slate, there's too much risk for Senga today. And I mean, there's plenty of strikeouts in the Cubs lineup, and he's a guy that another guy that when he's on, he can pitch well. But I mean, they rolled out a low strikeout team. It's an extreme umpire, and the weather stinks. So just no reason for me to play Senga today.
Chat, join the conversation. Participation is encouraged. We're here all the way up to 6:15 until we hand it off to crunch time. Whatever's on your mind, give us the details. If you're asking about certain questions as far as this guy or that guy, or are you playing on DK? You're playing on FanDuel. You're playing cash games. You're playing tournaments, single entry, 3-entry max. You're playing the large field where you're just throwing some darts. All that kind of stuff is helpful as far as answering questions. By the way, the FanDuel single entry series that rolls on $2.22 this week, as well as the $3. Shout out to Christy, by the way, who does content here. She took down one of them, last week on FanDuel. I don't recall which one it was. There was
$33.
33. Yeah. So shout out to her. Congratulations.
She's having an insane season.
Yeah. So congratulations to Christy. Hopefully the 222 is probably the easiest one to do, as long as you keep entering it. But your top 4 scores. Take your top 4 scores, cumulative. You want to beat the field. And by the way, the DK one, they just finished one last week. Your boy got 13th overall in the 222. We finished 4th yesterday in the 222. We almost got there. It was a nice close on a Sunday. Typically, we were speaking of mental health days. I was going to take a Sunday off just to kind of relax. But whenever these things are going down, I couldn't take Sunday off because I was actually, I was in the running. I had a chance. I had a good day, so we had to go for it. We could not take Sunday off. No days off here at all. But all right, who are we missing? Who have we not talked about just yet? The reason why I was mentioning the chat is he wants to know he wants me to explain why Wolf is an extreme pitcher umpire. I don't know. I can't. All I can tell you about Wolf, the interesting thing about Wolf is his brother was a pitcher and he was an umpire while his brother was in the league. Remember Randy Wolf for the Phillies? I think they weren't allowed to be on the field in the same game, which makes sense, but it's a little bit of a conflict of interest, right? What did not the guy umpire? You said he was a professional. But Stevie, do you have that? Like, you can't tell me why Wolf is popping as an extreme pitcher umpire. That's somebody else doing stats. That's not me. But I couldn't tell you. I don't know it well enough.
Yeah, I mean, I just follow the data. The data suggests he's an extreme pitcher's umpire. I'll roll with it. It's not like a huge deciding factor for me. I just like to look at it like you have a pitcher that maybe struggles with walks a little bit more. I mean, maybe you look at it a little bit, but it's not like an end all. It's not like an end all type of situation for me.
Hey, Hoosiers hangs banners has a question in chat, and it's I'll give it to you, TJ, asking if Varsho is a pinch hit risk. And I'm pretty sure I saw this yesterday, and I was kind of shocked, and it sort of speaks to how terrible Varsho's been this year. Did I see Espinal pinch hit for Varsho a couple days ago? Am I making that up? I feel like that happened. I assume it was when Lefty came in. But Espinal is like, a glove guy.
I assume somebody else pinch hit for him, and then Espinal got like rotated into the field and then got another at bat.
Okay. That's what I would assume too. And I wasn't watching the game, and I saw on the box score, and I'm like, it looked like Espinal's pinch hitting for Varsho, and that just
or was it just the last game that they won 13-1?
Oh no, what? I don't think it was that. Yeah, I don't think that's what it was. Yeah, where they're facing the Red Sox drew out, I don't know, like a shortstop or something like that in the last inning, which is always kind of fun. But I don't think that was the situation. No, but in general, I don't think Varsho is a big pinch at risk, but sometimes left on left, they will get away from him, right?
Mm-hmm. Not often though. Like he's not usually a guy you got to worry about.
Yeah. That certainly wasn't the plan coming into the season, but he's just kind of not been great. who have we not talked about as far as pitcher that we should talk about? Okay, so Kirkwood saying Espinal pinch hit, but that was before the Dean reverse mush. That doesn't help me. What does that mean? So he did pinch hit for him, but that was before. When did I reverse mush? Oh, I think I did give the poo-poo on Varsho, and he homered, and good for him. I'm just mad at him because, I got to get this in here. He's on my season-long team, and I've been wanting to cut this guy all season long. He's been, weighing everybody down. But, there was some draft equity there, and I just can't let go. I finally got rid of Manoa. You'll be proud of me, TJ. He's finally off my season-long team.
You picked the wrong time. You should have been on your waiver wire all year, and then you could have just picked him up right now.
I think somebody else scooped him up. We had to get a W for the week. We got to win in advance, basically, because it's been a tough season where we're struggling.
If you would have played him, you would have got the win too. Well,
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's been a bad locker room guy, just all around for us. It's not been good. What else is going on in the chat before we move on and talk about some stacks and some hitters? And there you go. Tim's excited. If you have a bingo card available, mark off season-long talk. There you go. The people want it for sure. Other pitching conversations. I saw somebody mention Waldichuk. I cannot imagine your roster of Waldichuk today. Bido, I don't think so. Steve, are we missing anybody? I feel like we basically talked about all the pitchers that are relevant enough. It's possible.
You're missing the stud, Bello. What are you doing?
Oh, Bayo. Yeah, let's talk about Bayo.
Yeah, why don't you want to talk about my boy?
Well, that's my bad. But yeah, you're facing Kansas City, and there's no Sal Perez. He's dealing with, I think, a hand or
Bruce
a wrist
hand.
or a thumb. He's got a hand. Yeah,
I was on vacation, and I know that, Dean.
Well, I know he's got a body part. I know he left the game the other day. He's also on my season-long team again. The people want to know. Yeah, Steve, you talk to me about Brian Bayo.
I mean, outside of the fact that he's just an absolute stud, the Royals, they kind of stink. No Perez, they're taking out the best hitter in the lineup. Bobby Witt has been hitting the ball really well, but I mean, low walk rates, which Bayo kind of will struggle with from time to time. Enough righties in this lineup for some strikeout upside. So I think he's just kind of in a price range where he's not getting a ton of ownership today. The Royals, a lot of people are talking about them as like a cheap, secondary type of stack. And I think Bayo is in a great spot for tournaments. Will it work out? We'll see. But I think this is a great spot. Low ground ball guy, or high ground ball guy, low fly ball guy, facing a lineup that has some upside. So I think Bayo's in a good spot.
Yeah, two of the better ground ball pitchers in the league taking the bump today. Bayo at 56%, Webb at 60%. We haven't really talked about Webb, kind of mentioned him in passing. He's certainly interesting as well. Talk about them both there, TJ, as far as Bayo and Webb. Are you over? Are you under? Are you with the field? I assume both those guys are in your pool. You tell me.
Bayo is. I'm over the field. Webb is not in my pool.
Oh, okay.
It just doesn't make the cut. I don't think it's a ton of pitching upside on this slate, and I don't think he has enough upside there for me to go to him.
Kirkwood saying the dew point model loves Fenway today. That's interesting. All right, I'm curious what Weather Edge has for Boston. Giving a refresh over there.
I wish that Philly game was on the slate. The weather in that game is fantastic.
Well, it's actually not because it's orange. Because it might not.
I meant hitting conditions.
Yes. And I think all those games, I was watching Philadelphia, Washington yesterday. I think Philadelphia is starting all their games at 6:40 this week, which is kind of a bummer because I want that series on the slate, and I guess it's not going to be on any.
So they postponed that game. Yeah, they just postponed that game.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
That stinks. So I had a lot of pick 'em plays around Schwarber today.
You're saying what for like prize picks?
Yep.
All right. Well, they'll just well, you didn't lose.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I liked his even on Sleeper and Underdog. There were some lines that I really liked for Schwarber today. So, oh well.
All right. Let's see. Brian in chat saying Bayo gets rocked today by the Royals. You heard it here first. Well, it is a good hitting weather there in Boston. We're looking at 10 miles per hour, kind of a crosswind going right to left, 74 degrees. The dew point is 66. I don't know what that means, but I'll tell you this. In 188 previous games of similar weather, we've seen an increase in home runs at 20.9%, an increase in runs at 7.5%. So, yeah, I assume we're going to be talking about the Boston offense. Certainly better hitters, but the Kansas City offense, they also get the benefit with that positive hitting environment. Now, it's not a good lineup. It's a objectively bad lineup for KC, especially with Perez out, Garcia, Witt, Massey, Melendez, Beatty, Fermin, Waters, Blanco, and Isbell. But they are super cheap if you're looking for like a secondary stack to kind of make everything else work. Anything else as far as pitchers? Did you have a Bayo take, TJ? You kind of mentioned he's in your pool, and that's that. Anything else you want to stress? Anything else you want to? I think you mentioned Reagan's is in your pool. I assume it's just for salary reasons, but we just talked about not the best spot for him against this Boston offense in that positive hitting environment. But he is really cheap, and that's the nicest thing we could say about him, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about double the field on Bayo today. Kansas City is just not very good. He gets a ton of ground balls, so I will have some Kansas City stacks as well. But I'm also, just because they're so cheap, that allows me to double pay up for some guys. But Bayo is I'm about 2 times the field on him.
I think they're talking about NASCAR stuff there in chat, Stevie. Is that what's going on? Is there a NASCAR conversation? Reddick, is that a NASCAR person? I know JJ.
Yeah, the race got moved. I mean, they ran like 70 laps yesterday, finished today. So there's a little conversation. One of the guys that during pit stops would have came out leading the race. They didn't tighten his right rear tire on his car, and the tire came off, and it cost him the win. Okay. It cost him the opportunity to win. He would have been leading the race with 20 laps to go. So heard a couple bets, heard a couple really good lineups for me, but it is NASCAR and high variance.
You got to tighten those lug nuts, right? Like as somebody knows how to change a tire, that's like 101. Tighten up those lug nuts for sure. Hey, Stevie, 2v2, Cease and Cole or Peralta and Bayo?
Peralta and Bayo for me.
That was a quick call there. You agree with that,
that's
TJ?
my main lineup is Peralta Bayo. So
well, there you go. You probably had that conversation with yourself already. Yeah, that's a tough one. You have a take on that, TJ? Cease and Cole versus Peralta and Bayo?
Peralta
I think
and
I'm with
Bayo.
Stevie. Yeah, that's the way I would lean too. Big Hurt wants to know. We'll talk stacks in a second. We'll save that question. We'll knock it out. And there you go. The Philadelphia team game is postponed. Yelich versus Adalis Garcia. That is a great question too, because I had a hard time I think I ranked those guys basically right next to each other. They're similar price, and I like both those offenses. Let's talk about offense. We'll talk about it in a second after we do the summary for pitchers. TJ, they just joined the show right now. They gotta hit that like button, of course. We get to 100 likes. You fire up those Spidey bombs for the people, and then they want to know what they missed. What do they miss as far as pitchers? Give them the summary.
So Strider and Peralta are going to be my 2 highest owned guys by far today. I have in my latest run of lineups, I have 49% Peralta, 47% Spencer Strider. The next tier of guys I have is two players at 25%. I got Patrick Sandoval and Garrett Cole. They're going to be my next 2 highest owned guys. Then I have a tier 3. All of them I'm getting to at 15%, and it's Cease, Dunning, and Bayo. And then I'm mixing in just a little bit of Cole Reagans just in case that Boston chalk fails and I can get some leverage with a cheap pitcher that allows me to get some Braves.
What do you want to add, Stevie?
Strider is really good at striking people out. Peralta is in a fantastic spot. I mean, those 2 guys are they're far and above the top 2 pitchers on the slate. Cole hasn't had the strikeout upside here recently, but we know how good he is. We know how bad the White Sox are. Bayo and Cease, boom bust. Sandoval pivot off of Dunning. Dunning gets a good strikeout matchup against an Oakland lineup with a lot of strikeouts.
Jerry is asking FanDuel cash pitcher. I'm playing some tournaments over there, playing the 222, playing the $3 RotoGrinders single entry series sponsored. I'm in those. I think ideally you get the Strider. If you can't get the Strider, it's Peralta. Interestingly enough, I mean, I think projections are probably going to put you on Peralta over Strider. They're similar as far as the projections, because the matchup is so good. TG, you got to take there, 11.5 for Strider, 10.5 for Peralta. If you're desperate for that $1,000, I'm afraid of missing out on 12 strikeouts from Strider. I think it's how many straight games has he gone where he struck out at least 9? I think it's 7 straight games. It's just ridiculous. There's no guarantees. There's no safe pitchers, however you want to phrase it. But if there is one, it's Spencer Strider. You have a take if you're playing cash games over there? I presume you're not. I don't think you're a cash game
No, I'm
guy.
not. I'm doing 3 entry max in addition to my 150 lineups, but I'm not doing any cash games. And so for me, it would be Strider, Peralta, and cash.
Wait, they're saying the Strider total for strikeouts is 11.5. Can't be that high, can it?
It's 9.5.
Okay, yeah. There's no way it's 11.5. Like, you could have got like an alternate line at 11.5, but there's no way that's like, the whatever. Probably it would be like minus 140 or the under or something probably. But yeah, that seems a really, really ambitious. Okay, stacks today. Myself, the Luch, Head Chopper, Keith Eister, Ice. We have our consensus rankings as follows: Atlanta number 1, then Texas, then Boston, then Milwaukee. I think it's kind of those 4, like in some sort of. I mean, Atlanta's just like the best, but they're also hard to get to. And at least I'm curious what you guys think, but I had a hard time throwing my 5th one there. I did give it to Toronto. Toronto is our next team, then the Mets, then KC. So Atlanta, Texas, Boston, Milwaukee, Toronto, Mets, KC. TJ, how do we feel about those rankings? You like the consensus rankings? Anything too high, anything too low? Anything you want to kick off? Anything you want to have join the conversation?
It's a lot more Milwaukee than I have. Milwaukee is one of my lower owned stacks today. They're definitely in the pool, but they're among my lower owned stacks. For me, it goes Boston 1, Toronto 2, Atlanta 3, Texas 4. And I actually like Cleveland as my 5th favorite stack going up against Ryu. Low strikeout guy, and they're just so wildly cheap. They allow you to do some things today. And so that's kind of how I'd be ranking it, and I'd drop Milwaukee down.
Somebody was asking Cole Calhoun pinch hit risk, and normally I would say sure, but they're starting him left on left, so I think it's whatever it was. It's like not as high as it would typically be, because I presume he would start against a righty. Why is he starting against the lefty? Are they missing somebody that I'm? Why is Calhoun drawing the start today? Who's not in this lineup that typically is? Is kind of what I'm asking. You know what I'm asking here?
I don't remember who got knocked out. Oh, Fry's not in the lineup, and that made me sad, but I don't know if
Calhoun's playing first base over Fry.
There he is. He's playing first today, so that's why.
Okay. Why is Bo Naylor bat last in this lineup? Like, I don't understand that, but okay. Well, that guy's left on left, but their Calhoun's all the way up to 5 for some reason.
That's what I'd assume. There's no pinch hit risk for Calhoun since he's starting left on left.
I'm curious and I guess Carty will touch on it when he comes on. I'll see what the bat has for that, but whatever it typically is, it is lowered with him starting versus the lefty. Stevie, your thoughts as far as stacks? I don't know if you need me to reiterate. You can just pull up the consensus rankings. You have premium, I believe. You know a guy. But, yeah, chime in on your favorite stacks today in our rankings currently.
Boston number 1 for me. I like Boston a lot. I've been trying to make an Atlanta stack work. It's just so hard. You can make it work and you feel good about it. They would be number 2 for me. And then I really like Texas today, and I really like Oakland. Oakland's a team that I'm using quite a bit as a leverage spot off of our boy Dunning. So landed on Oakland on 2 of 3 teams for like secondary stacks because of how cheap they are, and the pitching is great today.
So I did pull up the bats support DerekCarty in the bat. Nobody's getting more than 16% pinch hit risk on the Cleveland team. I wanted to see Boston because I imagine why is Refsnyder so low, Stevie? I thought, well, why is he not like on high alert to get pinch hit for? I don't understand the number.
I think it's a lot higher than what any kind of model is going to say. With Verdugo and Duran on the bench, I think Refsnyder is definitely high up on the list today for pinch hit risk because neither one of those guys are hurt.
Correct, and maybe this will change the closer it gets to lock. But to me, that seems the current Refsnyder projection seems a little bit too low. And interesting enough, the highest pinch hit risk for Boston is Pablo Reyes, which I think that checks out as well. But I'm just kind of surprised that Refsnyder, he's one of the guys, and Slater is another one. I don't know. People are more likely, obviously, to stack Boston than they are San Fran, but Slater is always 53%. Wow. That is a big boy number for sure. And Matthews also getting in the 50% percentile We talked about the lefties lurking on that bench, Jock Peterson and Wade. Pretty decent chance they come in. You don't really know how the game's going to play out. If it's 12-1 in the 5th inning, they probably just have the full day off, and that's that. But you can't assume that that's an outlier more than the standard. Flatwoods Fella says, DK, Strider, a must. I'll throw this to you, Stevie. I don't think he's a must because we have legitimate pivots. He's spectacular, but I wouldn't call him a must because, Cole's there and Peralta's there. And there's other pitchers. Webb is a solid pitcher. Senga can certainly, give us a nice output. You can catch Cease on the right day. So I would not say he's a must. He's definitely in the pool. If I'm running 5 lineups, I would say there's no way I'm not making at least one with Strider, but I wouldn't call him a must. What say you?
Yeah, I don't think anybody is a must play in baseball. Variance is so high, but I think that he has the highest opportunity to be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. But he's also the highest priced pitcher on the slate by 1,500 on DraftKings. So a little bit easier to fit Strider in on FanDuel. I know the question was a DK question. I think there's, some great options. I think Peralta has a better chance than Strider at being the highest point per dollar pitcher on the slate. So if I had to say a must, which I don't use that word, I hate that word. My favorite pitcher today would be Peralta. How about that?
By the way, Cleveland Picker is telling us, yeah, that's right. Josh Naylor is not on Cleveland. I saw Naylor. I forgot there's 2 of them. So Naylor is hurt, and also they traded away Bell to the Marlins. So that's why Cleveland's just really, really thin.
It's Fry was the guy that we had projected in the lineup today. That's kind of who we were referring to as the guy who was out because he was projected in there. I actually had a bet on Fry to hit a home run too. I got him at plus 750, and I was excited about it. But whatever, that'll just get refunded. Speaking of home run bets, we are well over 100 likes now. We're only 30 likes away from Spidey Bomb number 3. So keep hitting that like button. We got about 500 people watching right now. So let's see if we can get 200 by the time the crunch time guys get here, get Spidey Bomb number 4. But we're going to get the second big name guy out of the way, and then we're going to be swapping to some cheapies from a DFS standpoint. But Shohei Ohtani is plus 360 to hit a home run on FanDuel. I love those odds for a guy like Shohei. Even though Logan Webb is a ground ball guy, I don't care. It's Shohei Ohtani, and I love him as a DFS play today as well, going super low owned.
Yeah, when you get the ball in the air against Webb, though, he's given up a fair bit of homers, considering, the fly ball percent is down to 24%, 17.3% homer to fly ball. The other part of it, considering he throws baseballs in San Fran, just about 1 per 9. But, yeah, if somebody's going to do it, it's going to be Ohtani. My only counter to that is, why would you give him anything to hit with Brandon Drury behind him, right? By the way, Grichuk is down in the 9 hole for the Angels, which is, I don't know if that's new. I know he would be higher up against a lefty, but that does seem he tumbled a fair bit. Let's see. Eric wants to know if the Cubs are sneaky. 8-game slate. They're not going to be well owned. If you like the Cubbies, they're not going to be terribly popular. Certainly not as popular as they were in that series against Cincinnati. The ballpark downgrade doesn't help either. But a team total of 4.5. That's not jumping off the page. So if they're going to be relatively unowned. TJ, you're running 150. How much Cubs do you have?
I do have a little bit of Cubs today. Let's see. In this last build I have, they are among my lower owned teams, but I have 10 Cubs stacks and 150 lineups.
By the way, somebody mentioned Cole Calhoun, BBP, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're just BBP truthers over there in Cleveland. Left on left versus Hyun-Jin Ryu. Cole Calhoun is 3 for 6 historically with a single, a double, and a homer. Never struck out, never walked. So there you go. I don't know if they're looking at BBP. Also, it's more so their options are so limited. Like Fry is not great, right? So whatever. That's basically the guy who's vaulting, and they traded away other pieces. Let's see. Last night, I'm just seeing what's going on in chats if we're catching anything. Is Senga a good pitcher? Yeah, when he's throwing strikes. Yeah. Or I guess that ghost fork many times is not a strike, but it looks like a strike, and the hitters, it's too late once they realize it. Stevie, what do you think of Senga? You're a pitcher. You appreciate the art of pitching. What's your takeaway of Senga so far, and how do you like him tonight, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, if the weather was a little bit better, I could see maybe taking a shot. I'm more likely to play the Cubs now with the weather, but it's still City Field. I mean, we got to remember what ballpark we're potentially taking hitters in. One of the worst hitters ballparks in baseball. Even with the wind, we don't see a huge increase. So I think that this lineup is actually a very stackable lineup as far as the Cubs when you're looking at price and ceiling and upside. So like if we do get a delay in this game and Roth has it like the third inning, fourth inning, like that's a lot of bullpen that you're going to get here. So it's kind of like one of those things where the Mets are really close to a bottom 10 bullpen. If you get Senga out early, I could definitely see the Cubs working. I'm not playing Senga just because of the weather and everything, but I could definitely see stacking the Cubs today.
Mets, they're talking about the wind blowing out in New York today. I looked at Weather Edge, and there's currently no matching historical game data. What is going on in New York that we have nothing that has never played out before? What's happening in New York? Did I miss this? Let's see, 20 miles per hour winds apparently out to left field. All right. We'll see what Roth has to say about that. But yeah, Weather Edge has never seen a game with this similar, dew point and temperature and wind. That seems kind of odd. The ballpark's been around for a while. They're asking about, single entry lineup on Fanduel, Stevie. As far as stack, your favorite single entry stack, considering all the elements, ownership, how good they may or may not be, that kind of thing. What do you got?
Boston. I mean, I think it's a great spot for Boston. So they're my favorite stack today. Like, if I needed to get off the board, I'd say maybe Texas. I think Texas is in a great spot today as well.
All right, TJ, thought on that? Like, it's just a single entry tournament, single entry lineup. Your favorite stack would be who? I know you get every possible combination with 150. Like, mathematically, you can't lose, I'm told. But say you want to pick Toronto.
Yeah.
Anything in specific on Toronto you're focusing on? Just a
lot cheaper than we can usually get them, and so one of Belt or Guerrero, if you want to use Guerrero as a spend up, he's a very cheap spend up, and he's going to be low owned. Belt is one of my favorite salary savers on the slate. So is Davis Schneider. Danny Jansen, another one of my favorite salary savers on the slate, and so like 1 through 5 are definitely my primary looks, but I mean, even mixing in Chapman or batting 6 or salary saving with Varsho or Biggio, I'm good with that too.
Fire off your questions in chat. We're here for the next 10 minutes until we hand it off to Crunch Time. You got Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. You have SquirrelPatrol, who's been to about 1 billion live finals, give or take. And you have DerekCarty, CEO of the Bat and the Blitz. You mentioned Toronto, TJ. Gavin Williams, maybe a visit from the regression monster is coming. A very positive 3.38 ERA in the season, and good for him. Small sample stuff, right? A lot of promise going forward as far as his career, but a Sierra says otherwise, says it's been lucky at 5.08, left on base at 80%, BABIP at 276, homer in the fly ball at a lucky 8.2%. So maybe, just maybe, Toronto brings the old regression monster to Cleveland tonight.
For what it's worth, Roth just said that unless we get a late start in Pittsburgh, starting pitchers are not safe.
Oh, and that's Spencer Strider. And I'll tell you what, if
I'm Pittsburgh, I literally go out of my way to make the game start and make Strider get a delay.
Yeah. Interesting. Some gamesmanship there. Is that on his Twitter? Because I'm looking at the Weather Edge, his weather report.
Yeah, he just tweeted it.
Okay. Rain.
Can I say I kind of like Gavin Williams today? I know we didn't really talk about him when we were talking pitchers, but with like Varsho, Biggio, DeJong in the lineup, there's a lot of strikeouts, even Chapman, a lot of strikeouts at the bottom half of this lineup. Gavin Williams, he has like an interesting like pitch mix, and he doesn't give up a lot of barrels. He does a great job, and I think his BABIP is so high because of his pitch mix that he uses, but very talented young pitcher. I get why Toronto, why you guys like Toronto. But I think Gavin Williams is super interesting as like a large field tournament play. I just built a a single entry team for like my fourth team, and it has Williams instead of Dunning, and I don't hate the build. So anytime you have like a guy that really relies a lot on like slider changeups, you're gonna have higher BABIPs.
TJ, what do you think of this pairing to start with? Thoughts on starting with Peralta and Dunning, and then a mini stack of Atlanta and the Yankees?
It's totally cool, but I would rather do Sandoval than Dunning.
Who's our favorite Braves outside of like your favorite? I always want to know the favorite outfielder. It's kind of tricky to figure out. I always like Harris more at home. I'm sorry, on the road, just because the likelihood of him getting his fourth at bat is much more enhanced. You're locked in for that ninth inning. The Braves win a lot at home, and many times he's like on deck in the bottom of the eighth, and he doesn't get his last at bat. That happens sometimes. Sometimes he gets to the bottom of the eighth because they bat around so many times. But I just prefer him on the road, so I'm more apt to go to Harris. But all those outfielders are perfectly fine. Do you have a way of separating them, Stevie, as far as the Atlanta outfielders, or it's just they're all fine and hopefully you land on the right one on the right day?
I mean, I think that if you're stacking Atlanta, you got to play Acuna. He has the highest ceiling, so I mean, I think he's definitely ahead of the rest of them. But I think kind of to your question of like, how do you really separate them? I mean, Harris usually has the lower ownership of the bunch because he hits ninth, but hitting ninth in an offense like this isn't like a huge downgrade. He gets plenty of at bats. We're always looking for at bats, and I mean, he's most of the time when they're hitting the ball well, he's going to get his 4 at bats. So I think Harris is like the guy that I tend to play the most in Atlanta stacks, just because people tend to play like Rosario and Ozuna more, and I think Harris has more upside.
By the way, just got a Texas lineup. Semien, little revenge game here in Oakland. Seager, Lau, Garcia, Garver, Grossman, Duran. Huff is DHing, and Tavares. Let's see. So we have Duran in the 7 spot, by the way. He was going to be pretty popular and falling a little bit, and based on his lineup spot. And then Sam Huff is a catcher that's 2K. People like their cheap catchers. I think Garber is probably the cash game catcher on DK at 3.5. That's still a pretty good price. Just want to see Huff. Is he somebody that sticks around, Stevie? Or is he somebody that might get the hook later on when we get a righty once Waldichuk is removed? Because 2K catchers in a good offense, about a 5.5 total, locked in for 9 against Oakland. Waldichuk's bad. That bullpen is worse. You have anything on Sam Huff? I know you are the punt catcher du jour, and I don't know, were you projecting Huff to be in the lineup? I don't think we had him projected. And now that could be interesting. It could be usable. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Why not take some shots? Like he's the only viable punt catcher today. He's the only guy that's worth playing under 2,600. Like if you're not playing Wong, I think Wong is everybody's like punt catcher. I think Furman's going to get some ownership today. Because Kansas City's getting some love. But yeah, I mean, Huff is very much in play for me as a punt catcher.
He has a 70 grade power on Fangraphs, which is a huge number.
Nice. Even better.
Yeah. I like that as a punt, a 70 grade power guy. We haven't seen him a ton in the majors in his career, 8 homers and 195 plate appearances. But I'm just curious about his chances of getting the hook. But yeah,
I'm more frustrated that Duran sitting 7th in the lineup than Huff being in the lineup.
Yeah, because he was somebody that I think was landing in optimals. How much does that change things for you? Or maybe, now his ownership's going to go down, so everything's kind of relative. You're still on him. I guess he's in your shell lineup right now.
Yeah, I'm not changing it. I think he's in a fantastic spot. He's been great against lefties this year. And honestly, now I kind of like it, like the Huff Duran stack, like just throwing those 2 guys together, saving some money. Huff definitely going to make some builds for me. I got to fix some stuff anyway with Strider. But yeah, I mean, definitely interested in like that little mini stack there. And I already had a lot of Garcia and Seager and Garver. Now I might pivot a little bit of like Garver to Huff to make my Texas stacks a little different.
TJ, what do you make of this Texas lineup?
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that Duran's bumped down there, but I'm still going to be getting, like, it's not really going to change the amount of Texas I'm getting.
And you're gonna get some Huff and some Garver, I assume.
I'll get a little bit of Huff, but I'm going to be a lot heavier on Garver just because he's up there batting 5th today, and so he's going to be him and Jansen are my 2 favorite by quite a bit.
Adine is saying, is this the worst third base slate of all time?
It's really bad.
Just play Devers. It's as simple as that.
Is it the worst? It can't be, obviously, but like I didn't realize it was as bad. I was doing rankings earlier, and it didn't stand out to me as being horrific. But now I'm curious. They're going to go around the horn in a second, when the Crunch Time crew comes in, and they'll tell you how bad it is. Usually they're moaning about how terrible second base is. Devers, short. Riley, if you have the salary. J-Ram, I just Cleveland's tough to stack because outside of J-Ram, there's not a ton of power. Brian Anderson's one of those guys like probably only a Milwaukee stack. Christopher Morel, sure he's got plenty of power. Nobody's going to be on him. Cubbies are going to be kind of hidden here, but it's not great. You guys are right. You're saying just play Devers, Stevie. He's the most popular option, I believe.
Yeah, him and Riley, like just pay up at third base today. I think that there's a lot of opportunity. Or Ramirez, like there's a lot of opportunity cost at third base today. I think today is one of the days that you're paying up for a good third base play. The bottom half is just awful. No real power value wise down at the bottom today. So I think third base is a position where I think every team I have has either Devers, Riley, or Ramirez today.
Yeah, Josh Young not being in that Texas lineup is also what's kind of weakening it, and maybe that's the reason why Huff's playing. Huff is DHing. That's possibly opening up for him. I don't know if Young is available to pinch hit or not.
He's out for a while.
Yeah.
No, is he?
Yeah, he might be.
Oh, it's like a thumb. I didn't know if it's the season. That's a bummer. That's true. All right, TJ, pick one of these cheapies on FanDuel for a tournament. Fermin or Huff. I think Huff is probably the better option just for upside.
I guess Huff, but I wouldn't want to play either on FanDuel.
I think those are more like DK specific plays. But I'm guessing he's also 2K over there on FanDuel. I've not seen or confirmed. Let's see. What did I miss? Cheap sneaky hitters. Flatwoods fella, TJ. Who are the cheap sneaky hitter plays on this slate? You got a couple?
I don't know how before I get to maybe a sneaky one, I got a cheap play for we're at 150 likes, and let's get it up to 200 because we got over 600 people watching now. So hit that like button. We got more Spidey Bombs coming. But Spidey Bomb number 3 today, since we're at over 150 likes, is Jake Bauers for the Yankees going up against Cease, plus 420 over on FanDuel. He is one of my favorite cheapies today, too. If I need to get like sneakier than that, I think my favorite thing to do is play these Oakland cheap bats going up against Dunning, who's going to be chalk, Seth Brown, JJ Bleday, Cody Thomas, maybe a little Jordan Diaz or Soderstrom if I need to. But I really like these Oakland cheapies today as some sneaky options.
You should tell Carty how much you like Bauers today before we get off air.
What's the joke?
He wrote up on Scores and Odds for under half a hit. So,
is he thinking potential pinch hit risk? I think there's only 2 lefties in that Chicago bullpen. For what it's worth.
Yeah,
he's probably getting positive.
He has
juice
him as a big pinch hit risk today.
You got Bummer and Banks. I was just looking at this as far as the lefties in that Chicago bullpen, which, by the way, Bummer is a spectacular name for a closer.
Thankfully, it will not matter if he gets pinch hit for after he leads off the game with a home run.
There you go. I'm not saying I don't like Bauers. I'm just saying.
Proclamation. Yeah. Well, Carty is knocking on the door. You guys can tell him that in a second. I assume he's going to be here momentarily, as well as Roth.
Well, I didn't say I disagree with Carty either. Hold on, Dean. Back off, Barbie.
Was that from the movie?
No, I haven't watched that movie. Come on, man. I do. I have
with your daughters. You're not going to see Barbie?
No chance.
Oh, come on, Stevie. Be open minded.
No chance. I will say, like a cheap home run that I really like today is Seth Brown. I think this is a great spot for Seth Brown today. Dane Dunning, when he does struggle, it's definitely more with lefties. He gives up way more line drives and stuff to lefties. So I think if you're looking for a cheap like home run today, Seth Brown. Expert survey today, I said he was going to hit 2 home runs today.
Well, I just saw the Dodgers score. They are thrashing the Padres 13-6 in the 7th inning. And my season-long team is really hurting because I started Seth Lugos. That might have gone poorly for your boy, unfortunately.
I almost hit the X. You like you like started talking season long again. I almost hit the X button.
What is the X button? You can shut everything down? You have that capability?
No, just bounce. I'm out. I can
Oh.
smell when my wife is cooking, and like you started talking season long again. I almost peaced out.
I mentioned season long and you just disappear. That's it. That's all I got to do and you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We have Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth coming in, DerekCarty, as well as SquirrelPatrol. Roth, you weren't sweating that Philly game too hard, I hope, because that was a 6:40 start. You did also get the not in the main slate, but it's also wiped out, so it doesn't matter. I saw you had a big paragraph on it. You're really thoroughly diving into it, but I think you were on top of it as far as it likely going away, and it went away. How's Monday treating you there, Roth?
It's all right. I was sweating it just because that's what I do, and like from a weather interest perspective, it was an interesting scenario. So I just don't know why they postponed it an hour before the game instead of 7 hours before the game. But that's whatever. Do what they want. Okay.
That's is that Carty's Mario phone going off? Is that what that noise was?
That's what it was.
We were talking about one of your something you wrote up. I can't remember if it was Stevie or TJ that brought it up. What's your take today? You had an official take as far as Bowers. Were you betting under on hits? Was that your lean? Do you remember? Do you recall?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I'm betting Bowers under on hits, but he projects well for DFS purposes at his salary. A lot of his projections made up of home run potential, which is obviously a minority outcome, but he gets pinch hit for so often. And he's facing a good pitcher, and he's in a park that if you're not hitting a home run, like getting an actual hit is a little bit harder. So, yeah, I will be recommending him for DFS and hoping he doesn't get a hit for betting.
You're probably getting positive juice too, right? It's probably like plus 170 or plus 180 or something like that.
Plus 175. So that's a big part of it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
that's the big selling point.
At great odds.
We also have Squirrel.
So, like, baseball standards is one of the like most hedgiest sports. Is he someone you could see like taking the under on hits but still betting for a home run?
It is very possible. Let me take a quick look and see what his.
I would love that.
No, not a lot of home run value today on him, but it's possible sometimes, I guess. The pinch hit thing really, really hurts guys for betting purposes.
Two lefties, Carty. We got Bummer and Banks in that bullpen for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm missing somebody. They are both well rested. They did not pitch. Bummer threw 43 baseballs on Saturday, which, I don't know. I would say he was not available on Sunday, but maybe available today. Just throwing it out there.
Possibly. Yeah.
I was trying to buy some time for you. I hear you clicking away. If you can pull it up, we're getting to it momentarily, I think.
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, well, never mind. So much for that. TJ, Stevie, you got anything else for the boys here before we step aside and make way for the Fanduel sponsor Crunch Time?
No, I got to build some lineups.
Yeah, always good to hang out. Roth, appreciate you messaging me back at like 5 o'clock in the morning of the day. My man, I was just going to sleep when you were messaging me. So
that's so funny. Stevie hit me up with a forecast question at like 10 p.m. on, what was it, Sunday?
It was Saturday night. It was for the race.
Saturday night at 10 p.m. I had long been asleep because I got like, I'm not about that life. And then I hit him back at like 4 or 5 a.m. and he was still up or just going to bed from that, which is just insane where our schedules are in life.
Yep, it's hilarious.
What would 21-year-old Roth say that like whatever current age Roth is going to bed at 9:30 on a Saturday night? What do you think about that guy?
Just such shame. I was still pre-gaming.
He doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't understand. Like
21-year-old Roth isn't thinking about kids.
Well,
no.
21-year-old Roth is so jealous of
beers.
older Roth because he sleeps more.
Yeah, but hey, some things never change. We still got a tasty beverage.
That was TJ and Stevie. What are you drinking there?
I was going to say it is Monday, right? I lose track of days all the time, but it is Monday. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
that's my drinking day.
Rob, take it away.
Later, Dino. Hey, good stuff as always. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crunch Time. This is the show that is sponsored by Fanduel. We're going to take you up to lock. We might take you through lock, and we got two of the sharpest minds in the business helping to walk you through this slate. We got one, Mr. DerekCarty. What up, Carty?
Not much. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I have a strong feel and grasp for what we should do and where the weather is on a busy day. So that always feels pretty good.
You probably had a couple extra beers because you don't have to sweat about too much.
Yeah, well, it's a little better now that that Philly game is gone. And I guess it was never on the slate, but I was watching that. We got Squirrel as well. Speaking of weather, this guy in the heart of it, in the middle of it, there near DC. How'd that go for you?
So far, so good. Like we had some rain pass through, but it's actually not raining anymore, and there was no. It was just another rainstorm so far. But there is like intermittent purple stuff heading our way. But I am not important. Who is important is Spencer Strider. So we got to make sure that game for Atlanta is going to play. I guess it's in Pittsburgh, and whether or not they late start or have an early game interruption could be a big deal in this slate.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so it's the visiting pitcher there that people want.
Yeah.
Now, if I were Pittsburgh, and we'll just launch into weather. By the way, I think you're pretty much all in the clear there in DC where you are. So glad that worked out. Also, intermittent purple stuff kind of made me laugh. I have no idea what that means, but I'm glad it worked out.
Like on the weather radar, right? It's like different colors, and the purple's really bad, like the pink and purple.
No purple on my radar, but all right. So let's walk through the whole thing. We'll start in Pittsburgh because that's obviously a big spot. If they don't late start in Pittsburgh, there is a pretty decent shot of a delay. I do think it would be a very quick delay. This is a thin line that is kind of racing through. The smart thing and the likely outcome is probably that they're just going to late start, because if they don't, it's going to start raining in the first 3 innings. I think they'll probably late start, but I can understand from a strategy perspective, if Pittsburgh has the choice and the chance, get that thing going and then, get some rain and see if you can knock Strider out. Let's see if the day ends in what? No, Monday is my drinking day. Get out of here. Monday's my drinking day. Everybody knows that. I think in general, I think they're probably going to announce a late start. If they don't, I'd still probably roll Strider and just assume he comes back out after a delay, but it is not an ideal scenario. If it were a home game, I'd feel a lot better about them, not boning him and putting him out there in the rain. But so there, yes, decent shot of a delay in Pittsburgh. Decent shot of a delay in Boston as well. Do we want pitchers there, Squirrel, in Boston?
No, but we would be interested in the hitters.
Okay, bats are going to be fine no matter what. I think there's a 5th inning or later chance of a delay in Boston, but that game should be fine. And then New York is the other game that is really interesting, at New York. So it's the Mets, I think, that are home. What do we want there, Squirrel? Is that hitters, bats? What do we need there?
I think we'd be interested in the hitters, like some interest in the Mets.
I think for the most part, we look pretty good. There should be a delay in New York, and I think it's going to be a lengthy one. Maybe halfway through the game or so. Models have this rain moving in between 8 and 9 Eastern. There's a chance that they just try to play through some light to moderate rain, and maybe they just finish it in the rain. If they have to delay, and they might, it would be about 2 hours before that rain is fully clear. So it's not 100% that the bats are going to get back out there. But I think if they start the game, and they will, it's tried to start, I think one way or another, they're going to figure out a way to play it. So I wouldn't fade it. Is that good?
Yeah.
Does that work? Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at weather-wise. If anything changes, in particular, if we see anything about a TARP going on in Pittsburgh or anything like that, of course, I will let you guys know immediately. With that, let's dive into the content. Carty, you want to get us started here? Overall look, or just start talking pitchers?
Yeah, it's a slate where we have some aces. There's 2 in particular that I think really stick out. And then there's a whole bunch after them that are pretty similar. Chad is going to be furious at me for one of the guys that I like today. And offensively, I mean, there's one clear best stack, but on DK, they're expensive. On Fanduel, they're pretty expensive too. So I think ownership will be a little more spread there. But there's definitely a bunch of good offensive spots today.
Okay, well, let's dive right into the pitcher talk because I want to see what Chad is going to be furious about. I should also point out.
They really are.
Oh, good. All right. Hey, make sure you're signing up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers bet $5, get $100 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. We still have the FanDuel Single Entry Series ongoing as well, I do believe. So make sure you are filling that out as well. All right, Carty, dive into the pitching. Of course, I guess it starts with Strider, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, Strider is your top option. He's Strider. Obviously, he's against Pittsburgh. He's fantastic. I think Freddie Peralta is right there with him today, though, because Peralta is good, and he's against the Colorado Rockies, who are just really, really not good and are extremely strikeout heavy, especially since they traded guys at the deadline. Like, this is an offense that they're so much more strikeout heavy than like anyone else on this slate. So I think Peralta and Strider are actually very similar. You're not really going to get much of an ownership discount on Peralta. I think on DK in cash, you just pair them. On FanDuel, you have to pick one or the other, and Peralta's $1,000 cheaper. And so I think I go Peralta. I'm not going to tell you wrong to do Strider. Like, that's fine.
Sure.
But I think you're going to get enough out of Peralta where you can do that.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut in, but I'm looking at Peralta's ceiling projection here on RG, and it has his ceiling actually higher than Strider's, which is crazy to me because Strider can K 15 dudes. Like he has that upside.
Yeah, he does. Obviously, he's awesome. So, but
Yeah.
Peralta's spot today is so good, and I think there's man, my phone's blown up, and none of it is bat related. I'm sorry for all the noises.
You're right.
And we also have a bit of a weather differential there. It's I think the best hitting weather basically for the Atlanta game, and not quite as good for the Brewers. So that's that. In terms of other things, Logan Webb I think is fine, but he's a little pricey. But he would be kind of like the next best. I'm gonna have to turn this off in a second. And then you have guys like Garrett Cole, Kodai Senga, Dylan Cease, who are kind of expensive and like in tough spots. And I'm not really on them, but there's a couple of cheaper guys that I really like that I've been mixing in tournaments. Patrick Sandoval is the first one, especially on DK, where you're getting a little more of a discount. He's 7K over there. He's 8.5 on FanDuel. You can certainly play him in GBPs. But he's a solid enough pitcher. He's facing the Giants, who are pretty mediocre. And on a slate like this, that's fine. And then the guy that I'm going to recommend that Chad is going to blow up would be Ken Waldichuk, who is facing the Texas Rangers. And Chat knows that they can make fun of me about the Texas Rangers. It's really more about the price and about the environment than it is about the Rangers themselves. Like, the Rangers offense today does project as one of the better offenses on the slate. But they're in Oakland, and it's the only game under 70 degrees, and it's an extreme pitcher's park, and Waldichuk is so cheap. He's 5.4K. He's going to be very low owned. Even on FanDuel at 6.4, I don't hate it. Especially since we do have some expensive offenses on this slate that you might want to get to. And he's a guy who he's been bounced between the rotation and the bullpen this year a lot, but when he's been stretched out and in the rotation, they have given him a long leash when he's pitching decently. Like, he's gone over 100 pitches, I think 3 or 4 times this year. So it's gross. Nobody's going to want to do it, but that's part of the appeal of it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, low cost, low ownership is not a bad combo there. Even if he sucks, which, that's a problem. All right, Squirrel, let's dive into what your tournament takes are. Can we start with the Waldichuk call?
Sure. I have some Waldichuk, and I actually have some Waldichuk on FanDuel as well as DraftKings, but like single digit, and in my 150 set.
A little sprinkle, yeah.
Just a sprinkle of Waldichuk. Like you say, Spencer Strider is the guy, and like he really is a pitcher that can just absolutely torch a slate. And that's most pitchers can't. Like, we spend a lot of time talking about pitcher. A lot of time, really, it's just the offense that matters. Like, if you go scroll through the top 10 teams in a tournament, there might be like 4 or 5 different pitchers because their scoring tends not to be that like variable. Like, it tends to be like clumped together, except for Spencer Strider. Like, Strider can put up like game totals of like 60 plus points on FanDuel. Like, he can strike out I think last game he only struck out 9, and that was his first game in the last 5 where he didn't have double-digit strikeouts. So Strider is like the number 1 guy, but he is expensive. Freddie Peralta is the clear number 2 after him. I was initially underweight Freddie Peralta a little bit, then I may adjust that and go back just trying to match the field. After those two,
keep in mind when you're comparing between Strider and Peralta, Strider does have that delay risk if we don't hear of a late start. So that is probably worth considering, especially on FanDuel where you only get one pitcher.
Yeah, so I think that I was initially a little overweight Spencer Strider and underweight Freddie Peralta, and I may adjust that. But after those two guys, I think my favorite guys are like Logan Webb, Dylan Cease, Dane Dunning. I have a little bit of Cody Senga, but he is actually in that New York game that also has a weather concern. And I have a single-digit amount in my 157. in the low dollar contest, so I might just let it ride. But and then Garrett Cole and Ken Waldichuk are have very different projections and very different prices, but I have about the same amount of them. Cole facing the White Sox, and then Waldichuk facing Texas, but he's cheap.
Okay, why don't we have more Garrett Cole? What's wrong with Cole?
He's just not good enough for his price, I think, is the issue.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, that's fair. Let's. By the way, I saw someone said. Let me scroll up and find it here. Matt in the YouTube chat says, "Think of the glory you leave on the table not playing Waldichuk," and I kind of agree. Like, it's the fun play. Like, you sprinkle a little bit.
There is something to be said for taking a super cheap pitcher and then just getting whatever bats you want. And that is the appeal. And like I said, like the pitching scoring can be really clumped together. And so if you have this super cheap pitcher, but he's going to throw some innings, like he doesn't have super high strikeout upside, he's probably not going to throw like a complete game shutout, but he's going to put up some points, and he's going to put up some points really cheaply. And if then that allows you to get the bats that are going to hit like multiple home runs or hit a home run and steal a base or whatever, drive in 6 runs, then that's how you win a tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying Ken Waldichuk is going to go out there and like dominate. I'm saying for his price, there's enough chance that he goes out and gets you 15, maybe 20 points, and you're very happy with that on a slate where maybe pitching isn't great and you get some offense with it.
Right. All right. That makes sense. Yeah. It's always weird when we talk about the worst play the most because it's the most interesting. But to be clear, it's not like the play we think is the best. It's just the most interesting one. So we're talking about it.
Like, you're not playing him in cash. You're playing him in GPPs for a bunch of game theory and whatever reasons.
Right. All right. Well, let's flip it over and talk about some of the bats and some of the stacks. Again, I expect all of these games are fine. The one game that I have some slight concern with would be New York, where I suppose there's a chance. That's the game at New York Mets. There's a chance that they delay and never come back out. But I don't think that's the likely outcome. So as long as you're aware there's some risk there, because it's a healthy storm system moving that way, I'm okay with it as long as you're okay with a little bit of risk. Squirrel, you want to lead us into that?
Into the bets?
Yeah,
please. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think the most popular stack is actually going to be Boston. I think the highest projected stack is going to be Atlanta, but it's so expensive that it's really tough to fit in Atlanta unless you're playing like Ken Waldichuk or something crazy like that.
That's one of the reasons to play Ken Waldichuk, by the way.
Yeah. My favorite stack, I think, for like the price and for the ownership is probably the Yankees. But I also like Dylan Cease as a pitcher. So actually, I kind of like the idea if you're at like a 3-entry max contest, like throw in a Yankee stack and throw in a Dylan Cease lineup, just because I think that game has a lot of different ways it can go. And Cease can strike out a bunch of guys, but he can also get into trouble and get completely blown up like he did, I think, his last start. Yeah. So Boston is probably the most popular. I'm probably going to end up a little underweight Boston, just because I think their ownership is probably going to be too high for me. But yeah, then Atlanta is the top projected, and if you can afford them, I like the Yankees in Toronto, probably my favorite for the price and ownership.
Okay, very good. I've got a question on the Waldichuk, and again, we're talking about the pitcher we shouldn't be, on Waldichuk and Atlanta. Carty, if you go Waldichuk, is everyone who's doing that also going Atlanta, and then your getting different is somehow no longer different?
I mean, how many people are really going to play Waldichuk? And there are other things you can do with him. Like, I wouldn't be that concerned.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I didn't know exactly where that ownership was. All right, well, what are your thoughts here as far as stacks go?
Yeah, I think the bat projects like 8% ownership on Waldichuk. Only, a portion of that's going to be Atlanta too. And I'm not that concerned. There's a couple of expensive pitchers to pick from the stack with, play with them. I think it's different enough. But yeah, I basically in complete agreement with what Squirrel said. Like Atlanta's the best stack, but Boston is going to be the most popular and is probably the best for the money. The Yankees and the Jays look really good from a price ownership standpoint, and I'd probably throw the Royals into that group too.
I've got a few people actually asking about Pittsburgh bats, which seems crazy, but like 3 people have brought it up in the chat. Carty, I assume you have no interest. Is that fair to say?
I don't. I mean, you get leverage off a Strider, but it's not for me. I don't think they're good enough.
Yeah, and I'll actually throw in, because I think it's always tempting to stack against the highest projected pitcher because it's just baseball. So who knows what's going to happen? Like Strider can get injured in the first inning, and then the Atlanta bullpen could get blown up. So it's always tempting to stack against the highest projected pitcher. The problem is, I don't think that Strider is going to be that highly owned. I think Freddie Peralta is going to be more highly owned than Strider. So I don't know that you're even getting that much leverage playing Pittsburgh bats.
Gotcha. All right. I'm increasingly convinced here that Pittsburgh is just going to not late start, and they're just going to get an early delay, which is annoying. But again, it would be about as quick as a delay can happen in baseball. So I do expect if that happens, Strider would probably still come back out after that. All right, let's go position by position. Carty, start us off with some catcher talk, if you don't mind.
Yep. So, Sean Murphy is expensive, but great. Certainly in your Brave stacks or as a one-off if you can get there. I think Francisco Alvarez, though, is every bit as good today, and he's only 4K on DraftKings. He's hitting second for the Mets. He's got the platoon advantage against Smiley, and I think he's the guy that makes the most sense in cash games. If you want to save a little bit of money, you do have Mitch Garver against Waldichuk. You have Danny Jansen for 3.2K, and you have Connor Wong for 2.6. I think any of them are fine if you want to go down from Alvarez, but Alvarez is the guy it would be my preference to get up to. And then William Contreras has a one-off in GBPs.
Okay, Squirrel, I want you to talk catcher, and then I've got 2 more names at pitcher that I want to throw out. But first, walk through catcher for me.
Sure. I think my top guy is actually MJ Melendez. The Royals are they're underpriced and high upside and always low owned because they probably play in Kansas City. But yeah, MJ Melendez, Mitch Garver and Sean Murphy, and then Francisco Alvarez moving up in the order, and then Danny Jansen, Carty mentioned him, but he's got the scary DTD day-to-day tag on DraftKings, so it might affect his ownership a little bit. But he's hitting 5th for the Blue Jays, and they're one of my favorite stacks.
Okay, real quick,
I agree on Melendez. I forgot to mention him because he's not catcher on DK, but on FanDuel, you can just play him at the catcher first base spot if you want.
Okay, very good. A couple names that got brought up here in the chat real quick at Pitcher Squirrel was first, can we speak about Dunning? And then my guy Butthole Jenkins says, any Logan Webb love? Did we mention either?
I mentioned both Logan Webb and Dane Dunning. They're both in there. So Dunning is facing Oakland, which is one of the worst offenses outside of Colorado on the road. But yeah, so I think you can play either of those guys. It's just that Strider and Peralta are kind of a notch above everybody else. And then I like Dylan Cease probably for the upside and ownership and price. After those guys, the best, Logan Webb and Dane Dunning are right there as well.
Okay, very good. All right, how about first base, Squirrel?
Let's see, first base, Matt Olson, I think, is the highest projected. I would love to have him in all of my lineups. The problem is he's super, super expensive. Jake Bauers, first base on FanDuel, and yeah, FanDuel and DraftKings. He's really, really cheap. But Carty was talking about it on the crossover, right? He could get pinch hit for. He is leading off, so you're hopefully get at least a few plate appearances. But yeah, so I guess bet the under on hits. But he's only 2,600 on DraftKings, and he's I think 2,800 on FanDuel. So he's one of the best values on the slate. Pete Alonso, Justin Turner with the popular Boston stack, and Vlad Guerrero.
Okay, Carty, your thoughts at first?
Yeah, I agree. I like Jake Bauers a lot as a punt. I think Seth Brown at 3.3 on DK is a good punt. You have Brandon Belt and Wilmer Flores in the same range. I like Vlad quite a bit today. So if you can get up to Vlad, he's kind of like the expensive guy I like the most, especially because you're getting a little bit of a discount on him over guys like Olsen and Alonso, who are both great. You can one-off them. You can play Olsen in your Atlanta stacks, but you're getting the best value on Vlad. So I like him quite a bit. And yeah, that's kind of the thing. Even though, I bet the under on Bauer's hits at 2.6 on DraftKings, he's a good play. You might only get 3 plate appearances, but you might not get pinch hit for, and he might do something in those 3. So at that price, it's fine.
Okay, very good. How about second base, Carty?
Gleyber Torres is probably the top guy. On DK, he's not like super cheap. On Fanduel at 3.2, I think he's a lot more appealing. You have Ozzy Albies, you have Marcus Semien. They're both going to be great in stacks or as one-offs. Michael Massey on Fanduel is the guy I probably have the most interest in. I mentioned KC is kind of one of my favorite cheap / underish the radar stacks. And Massey's 2.5. He's hitting third. They're going into Boston. It's the best park in baseball that isn't Coors Field. He's facing kind of an overrated pitcher in Brian Bayo. I don't know how to pronounce his name, actually. I think he's probably the cheap guy on both sites. 2.5 on both sites. You have Luis Urias on the other side of that game for Boston for 3K on DK that I think is fine. But I think it's probably like get up to Torres or Albies or Semien or play Massey for me.
Okay, great. Squirrel, your thoughts a second?
So yeah, second base, I think Ozzy Albies is the top guy, but he's like 5,600 on DraftKings. That's really expensive. Like Marcus Semien is also great. Would love to play him. 6,100 is really expensive. So yeah, Michael Massey is only 2,500 on DraftKings, and I like the Royal stack. So I think that's a good play. See some other good value plays. David Schneider, like 2,400 on FanDuel. He's leading off the Blue Jays. So I think that's a really good play. He's like not a very highly regarded prospect, but I came up like 3 days ago, and I think he's like the first guy with like 9 hits in his first 3 games or something like that. Right, like 9 hits and 2 home runs in his first 3 games. So that's probably not going to continue, but he actually does get a bump up for hitting leadoff today. And I like the Blue Jay stack, so don't overlook David Schneider.
Okay, any thoughts on Duran? I'm seeing on FanDuel he is very multi-positional eligible here at second, short, and outfield. But he's got a lot of tags. Squirrel, you got any Duran in there?
Yeah, so I think Boston's going to be a really popular stack. I don't think he's second base eligible, though, on FanDuel.
He's second, short,
Ezekiel
outfield.
Duran.
Ezekiel Duran, yeah.
Yeah. I usually like to play him because he's got power and he's always cheap. So yeah, I think he fits in. I'm probably not using him as like a one-off, but I do like the Rangers as a stack. For what it's worth, that was the last lineup to come in today, and that sometimes affects ownership a little bit. And they're in a good spot. If you play Texas, you don't get to play Ken Waldichuk.
Right. Yes. Okay. Very good. Squirrel, what are your thoughts at third base?
So third base, the top projected guy, Austin Riley. I like Rafael Devers and Justin Turner with the Red Sox. Matt Chapman with the Blue Jays. Maikel Garcia leading off for the Royals. In terms of value, Mark Vientos is only 2,400 third base and first base eligible with the Mets.
Okay, Carty.
Yeah, it's a position where the expensive guys I don't think you have to get up to, especially on DK. On FanDuel, it's easy enough to get up to Devers. It's lefty, but it is Fenway. It's against Cole Ragans, and he's 3.4K. So on FanDuel, I really prefer to just do Devers. You can punt it with Luis Urias for 2.3. And obviously in tournaments, you have your Riley, you have your Jose Ramirez, you have your Chapman. And then on DK, I think you probably just punt it with either Urias or Vientos, at least in cash.
Okay. I think that brings us to shortstop, Carty.
Yep. I like Bobby Witt quite a bit. I think he's clearly the top guy. Expensive to get to on DK, much easier on FanDuel, which is often the case with these kind of guys. Going into Fenway against Bayo, Witt is really good. We do have Anthony Volpe for 3K on DraftKings. He's hitting 8th, but he's cheap. He's against Dylan Cease. They're getting this huge park upgrade for power. And so I'm fine if you just want to punt with him. On FanDuel, he's 2.8. He's fine. You have Luis Urias again, who's just eligible at all these infield spots for 2.3. If you're not doing Witt, you can play Seager in your Texas stacks. You can do Lindor against Smiley, which is kind of interesting because Smiley is very easy to run on. So there's some stolen base potential there with him. On the other side of that game, I think Swanson and Horner are both totally fine. And yeah, that's short.
Okay. Squirrel, your thoughts at short.
Yeah, I think I like Francisco Lindor maybe a little bit more than Carty does. I've got him as my top rated shortstop tonight. I do like Bobby Witt, Corey Seager. All these guys are expensive. Dansby Swanson, they're all a little bit expensive, and we've got to pay up for them. I do like Anthony Volpe. I actually realized one of the reasons I don't have a ton of Ezekiel Duran is I think I've got Volpe rated a little bit higher. He's also shortstop eligible, and on DraftKings, I think they're the same price on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Volpe is like $700 cheaper. It's $3,000 versus $3,700. And I do like the Yankee stack tonight. So, yeah, that's my value shortstop.
Okay. How about the outfield?
So it's a lot of the same names that we always kind of plug in the outfield. Like Ronald Acuna is probably the top projected outfielder. I like, Aaron Judge, Christian Yelich, Jake Bauers is outfield eligible. He's going to be the value play, I think. Adolis Garcia, MJ Melendez, George Springer, Marcell Ozuna.
Okay, that's it. That was quick. Okay, all right. Carty, you got more at the outfield?
Yeah, it's weird not seeing Acuna projected as the top guy today. Like, he's up there, but the bat actually likes Judge a little bit more. He's just such a huge power guy in the best park in baseball for power. So Judge and Stanton in particular, I think are just fantastic plays. I like the Boston guys. I like Duvall. I like Ref Snyder. I like MJ Melendez a lot for KC. Billy McKinney for 2-3 in that Yankees lineup on DK. I forgot to mention, I think he's good. Bowers, if you're not playing him at first, you can also play him in the outfield on DK. Yeah, that's kind of the main stuff I like tonight.
Okay. That brings us to some home run picks. We've got about 16, 17 minutes here until first pitch, until lock. Squirrel, you want to start us off with a little home run call?
Sure. Actually, I have my home run picks. I'll start off with MJ Melendez.
Okay. You got anybody else you want to throw in there?
And then I will also go with Corey Seager.
Okay, excellent. Carty, you got a couple names for me?
Yeah, Judge projects far and away with the best chance tonight. Somebody a little off the radar, maybe like actually not seeing a whole lot. Luis Robert, that's off the radar. He projects well for a home run tonight against Cole. In terms of betting, let me pull up home runs. Top bet tonight is Giancarlo Stanton plus 410 and Bobby Witt Jr. plus 700.
Okay. I don't follow baseball. How long has Judge been back? I thought he was out. Is this a new?
Not long. It was just I think over the weekend, like 3 or 4 days, maybe.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
think maybe like a week.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right. I feel like I hadn't.
I don't think he's
heard
hit a
anything.
home run yet, though, since he came back.
Oh, all right. All right, guys. We got about 15 minutes. Let's dive into some QQs and we'll see what we got here. Pulling up the RotoGrinders Discord. Hey, if you're not signed up for the RotoGrinders Discord, you should be. We're hanging out here. We're answering your questions all day long. It's a good community, so make sure you're jumping in that. Also, hit us with a little thumbs up. You're watching on YouTube. It's free content. This show is sponsored by FanDuel. They want eyeballs. The more likes we get, the more eyeballs we get, the happier they are, the more likely the show stays free. So if you like the free show, hit us with a little thumbs up. That's all we ask. Let's get to some QQs here. Scrolling up a wee bit. What do we got? GRS, this is interesting, says, Squirrel, I can't get away from the Ryu Strider combo. What are your thoughts?
Ryu's not really on my radar tonight. I think there's better cheap options. I don't even know how cheap he is. Yeah, 6,500. So I think there's better cheap options. I would probably rather play like Patrick Sandoval for a little bit more. Even like Drew Smiley, I thought projected a little bit better than Ryu. So yeah, it's he's not really on my radar right now. And of course, Ken Waldichuk is cheaper and projects better.
Gotcha. Okay, Carty, I'm kicking it to you. Luke Cage says, DK GPPs, is Texas good for stacks? You know they are. Of course they're good for stacks, right?
Yeah, I mean, even though I've recommended Waldichuk, like I think a Texas stack is totally fine tonight.
Yeah, fully. All right. Let's see what else. FanDuel Cash in the Util, Carty. I'm coming back to you. This is FanDuel Util. Best play at 3,700 or less.
Probably Stanton. It's got to be Stanton.
Okay, great. DK GPP Squirrel, any thoughts on Gavin Williams with the wind blowing in Wrigley style at Progressive? I don't know what the hell that means. It can only blow in
just to clarify, like, yeah, the only place that wind blows in Wrigley style is in Wrigley.
That's my guy.
I'm not even sure if it's blowing in there tonight. I have it across the field. I don't know how you have it, Roth.
Let me check. Is Progressive, is that Cleveland? Where the hell's that's Cleveland, right? I've got it blowing in from left at about 15. So in from left, a little bit left to right. It's helpful, but it ain't Wrigley. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, do we answer the question? Any thoughts on Squirrel? Any thoughts on Gavin Williams there?
I just don't have him as good as like Patrick Sandoval and Dean Dunning, and for about the same price. Now he'll be less owned, but like Dunning and Sandoval are cheaper, so they allow you to do a little bit more. And I think they've got a better chance of success than Gavin Williams. But Williams will have to see almost minuscule ownership. My guess is that he's probably not going to put up a good enough game that like breaks the slate. So like I wouldn't like just try to jam him into your lineup for no reason.
Okay, great. DK says, Squirrel, is it okay to punch shortstop in cash with Rocchio on both sites?
Let's see. I don't think I have him as my top value play. I actually like Pablo Reyes a little bit more for the same price at shortstop. But I would try to get up to like Volpe if you can, or Ezekiel Duran.
Okay, great. Speaking of Volpe, Carty, I'm going to you. You want Volpe or McKinney as the last piece for a Yankee stack in DK single entry? I currently have 1 through 4 stacked up.
I'll take Volpe.
Very good. FanDuel single entry, Carty, back to you here. Is a Yankee stack okay against Cease?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very good. FanDuel single entry, Squirrel, Ozuna Pollock or Rosario Garver? I've got Braves are a 3-man stack with Garver and Pollock being one-offs. So Ozuna Pollock or Rosario Garver with a Braves 3-man?
I'd do Ozuna Pollock.
Great. Dan Jan says, Squirrel, is a Dunning-Webb pairing okay in DK single entry?
So you're going to be, really low ownership there, not having Peralta or Strider. Yeah, I think for single entry tournaments, I think it's okay. It just isn't going to project great, but yeah, like it's fine.
You're going to need all the home runs, right? You're going to need all the home runs. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Carty, this is a FanDuel cash question for you. Acuna and Calhoun or Garcia and Springer?
So honestly, I'm more on like the Yankees and Boston stuff tonight. Like I'd rather play Judge over Acuna, but I think the Acuna side is the better one of those.
Okay, great. DK Cash, Schneider or Massey Peabody? Is that a person? Massey Peabody?
Massey Peabody is
all right. Schneider versus Massey Peabody. Carty, did you say Massey Peabody?
Yeah. Massey. Yeah. Massey Peabody is they're a couple of like betting analysts. It's like it's
a joke. It's a joke that just went over my head. Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Michael Massey, I think, is the answer.
A reminder, I don't follow baseball. I'm just like barely into the betting scene, but all right. All right, let's see what we got. I'm going to jump over to the YouTube here. We got plenty of questions coming in. Matt says, Squirrel, your favorite cheap pitcher on a DK for GPP? I think it's is it the Waldichuk or whatever, or no, not that cheap.
So yeah, Waldichuk is if you really want to be able to spend up on bats, then Waldichuk is the guy. If you don't like Waldichuk, but you still want to go a little bit cheap, I think you could go like Dean Dunning or Patrick Sandoval. If you're really trying to get cheap and don't like Waldichuk, like Cole Reagans, but I don't think I'm playing any of them.
Yeah. Okay, great. Your favorite. Okay, here we go. Instrumental says, Carty, DK Cash, Bowers, or Ref Schneider?
They're both viable. I think I play Bowers first, but
Great. DKGPP, Carty, coming right back to you here. Rockies or Pittsburgh stacks?
I mean, those are the offenses against the chalkiest pitchers on the slate. I just don't think their chance of success is high enough to warrant it today. I just don't.
Okay, that's fair. Gridiron Beauty says, what about a Cub stack, Squirrel? A Cub stack on DK?
I didn't get a ton of Cubs. Let's see. So, yeah, I just didn't get a ton of Cubs. I think they're facing Senga. And so there's a little bit of like a weather concern there. And so Senga can walk people and that can lead to trouble. But they're just not super highly projected for me. But I don't think there's anything wrong with them for tournaments.
Okay, great. And then I'll take Travis Duarte's question, Squirrel. Who's your favorite top stack if you're putting in all your acorns?
I'd go with the Yankees.
Okay, excellent. Carty, Eric Johnson says, what are your thoughts on Ryu on DK?
He's really not for me. First, he's not stretched out enough where he's like going to be like a complete game, kind of ceiling play today. And I just like other guys better in that price range. If I'm going to play a cheap guy, I'm going to play Sandoval, I'm going to play Dane Dunning, or I'm going to play Ken Waldichuk.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, FanDuel Cash Carty, Judge or Garcia? Is Judge your boy? Your boy?
Oh, it's definitely Judge.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Going to jump back into the RG Discord. Got more QQs coming in. Also going to peep radar real quick and see what's up here. Yeah. I mean, my best guess in Pittsburgh is that they have a brief delay about an hour into the game. So what is that? Inning 3, 4? That's kind of a shitty time because I'd rather it almost be the second inning because then Strider's coming back out. But I think they're either playing through it or it's going to be a brief delay. I don't think you need to get off Strider for this weather. All right, Squirrel, is a KC stack okay for GPP on DK?
Yeah, absolutely love the Kansas City stack. I would say like the Strider thing is making me a little bit nervous because like that's a lot of money. Like you can maybe get a 0 from a hitter and be okay. Like you're not getting 0 from a 12-8 pitcher and being okay. Or getting like a 3 because he doesn't come out after the rain delay. I mean, they might be able to get a good portion of the game in like an hour, especially with the faster pitch clock and stuff. They're getting more of the game in an hour, but it seems like it could be an issue.
Yeah, it certainly could. It certainly could. All right, is Ref Snyder okay, Squirrel, as a one-off in single entry?
I didn't get a ton of Ref Snyder. I feel like he's a pinch hit risk. Carty would know this better than me, but I feel like he leads off like versus lefties, but they can get pinch hit for.
Yeah, it's not as high as you'd think. The bet says 12%, but I mean, it's certainly possible.
Okay. Let's go to Tom's question, Carty. Is Strider okay for DK cash, or should I just take Cole? And so let's put ourselves in the position of someone who does not want the weather risk on Strider. Is the pivot on DK, assuming you're playing the other guy who we like, is the pivot off Strider to Cole?
No, I wouldn't play Cole today, basically in any format. I don't think, unless you're, doing 150 lineups, you can sprinkle some Cole in, but he's definitely not worth it in cash. There's guys, Logan Webb and Patrick Sandoval project straight up better than Cole. So it would be one of those two for me, probably Sandoval.
Great. Okay. So, and then who's the other guy?
But also, to be clear, don't fade Strider. Just play him in cash.
I mean, yeah. If you don't want any risk, it's not crazy. But I agree. I'm with you here. All right. Let's see. Jay Sam says, Carty, what's the pitch hit risk for AJ Pollock tonight?
Yeah, there's been a couple of questions about Giants pinch hit risk, so I'll go over them all now. So Pollock is 30%. Although he's on a new team now, he got traded at the deadline. It's possible it's actually a little higher than that. Mark Mathias is 53 and Austin Slater is 53. They're the two highest guys on the whole slate. And then you have Pollock, and then you have Luis Matos, who is 23%, I believe. And And that's the guys that matter. JD Davis is 10%. Everyone else is below that.
Okay. Let's see. We've got 4 minutes until lock. It's a cash question, but Squirrel, I'm coming to you here. Yelich, Belt. This is FanDuel. Yelly, Belt, or Simeon Duran?
I'd go Yelich and Belt.
Okay, great. Aside says FanDuel Cash, Squirrel, better value combo, Massey and Seth Brown, or Rep Schneider? Is that?
There's a Schneider and a Ref Schneider.
Okay, all right. Massey and Seth Brown, or Schneider and Ref Schneider?
Okay,
how is that?
You got to go with the second one, right?
I actually do like the first one better.
Oh,
yeah, it is the first one.
Yeah. Could be Travis says, hey, I just joined. Any weather changes from your initial thoughts on RG? They're not going to late start in Pittsburgh, which opens up the chance for a relatively early delay on Strider, which opens up the chance that he does not go a full game. I still think the likely outcome is they either play through some rain or he comes back out after a delay. But if they get a delay in the 4th or 5th inning, he might not come back out. And then you don't get 110 pitches that you want from Strider. So I do think that's a concern. And then in New York, I think there's also a decent chance of an in-game delay. Let me look at the latest radar there in New York. Yeah, buddy. That rain is trucking towards New York. That would be about an hour or so away from a delay in New York. So they'll get about an hour in, and then heavy rain, and then moderate rain. I think it's at least a 2-hour delay after that. So this is the New York Mets game, to be clear. It's not the safest spot. Squirrel,
how confident do you feel about that happening, that delay?
The delay is happening.
After about an hour, delay is happening.
Yeah, I'd say within the first hour to 90 minutes, the delay is happening. And I think
Go bet some pitching unders, everybody.
Oh, all right. I love that.
I mean, if that's really what you think is going to happen, like an hour, you're pretty.
I don't hate it, Carty. Let's see. That expires in 25 minutes. Yeah, I think in the next hour to 90 minutes. I mean, I guess 90 minutes is a full run, right? 90 minutes would be basically a full run for pitchers normally.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's not like, oh, this delay is coming in the next 30 minutes and it's like a lock. I don't know. We're kind of right on that borderline of maybe they get knocked out a little bit early. That's it as far as weather goes. We've got less than a minute until lock. Let's see if we can knock out a couple more questions before we bounce here. DKGPP, Squirrel, Bowers, or Melendez?
I'd probably go with Melendez.
Okay.
That's a close one, but if you can pay up for Melendez, I would.
Squirrel, if you needed a one-off under 3K on DK, not named McKinney, who are you playing?
One-off under 3K. Let's see. Maybe Michael Massey.
Okay, great. I love this. Gridiron says, "Hey, thanks, guys. Always helpful. Squirrel, Squirrel is my inspiration."
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you were inspired to get to 97 live finals, then he is a good person to take inspiration from, for sure. Tournament master there. Let's see. FanDuel GPP, Carty, Belt, Swanson, or Olsen Calhoun? We hit lock.
Belt, Swanson, or Olsen Calhoun? Probably Olsen Calhoun for me.
Great.
But
a
I'm
few
okay
more
with
questions.
either.
DK. Okay. DK Cash, Bauer, or Schneider?
They're both good plays. I probably take Ref Schneider first, but they're both viable.
Dan Jan says, any Flores tonight on DK? Squirrel, any Flores?
Not for me.
Yeah.
No. All right. FanDuel Cash, Vladdy Daddy, Squirrel, or Ginger Turner straight up?
I'd go with Vlad.
Okay, great. And then last question from Beaner here. You guys like Torres and Stanton, FanDuel GPP? Hey, hit us with a thumbs up, by the way. Hit us with a thumbs up. Do you like Torres and Stanton in a FanDuel GPP, Squirrel?
Yeah, like the Yankees are probably my favorite stack.
Very good. Okay. Hey, with that, we are going to bounce on out of here. I've got some weather to monitor. Pretty freaking anxious between the Strider thing and the New York thing, and I just hope that both of those work out okay. We are going to bounce on out of here for Squirrel, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love it. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.